the sooner we start, the sooner we can finish. So it is Tuesday, April 15th at 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting of the Budget Committee to order. I think everyone has an agenda. So this kicks off the process for the 2024 budget year. This is our first meeting of the year, and the first order of business is just to go around the room and introduce to make sure, I think we all know each other, but
For the camera.
for the camera too. So my name is Paul Regan, I'm a member of the Budget Committee. I'm the chair from last year, and we'll elect a chair for the coming year at this meeting shortly.
Charlie Terrio. This will be my 5th year on the Budget Committee, and I'm also a trustee of the trust fund. So it's Paul.
Yeah.
I'm Janet Kavanaugh, and I think this is my 3rd go-around
Term.
term. So I'm gonna run again. I enjoy it thoroughly. So
Thank you.
that's me.
I'm Walter Waring. This is my 3rd term on the Budget Committee, and doing what I can do and doing the best I can and enjoying it.
Thank you, Walter.
My name is Susan Sedano, and this is my 4th year on the committee.
Okay.
Carol Brown, I'm a member of the Select Board. I am here as an alternate Select Board representative for tonight. Les Diane will be the representative on a regular basis.
Thank you. So, and just to point out for members of the public, anyone watching on this, we're a 7-member committee, which is 6 members elected. We're elected 2 people every year for 3-year terms, which gives us the 6 elected members and a member of the select board. We actually have an opening on the committee right now, and we'll be dealing with that later in this meeting. The next order of business is to elect officers. So we need to elect a chair and a vice chair for the coming budget year. Does anyone want to make a comment or make a nomination?
I will recommend Sue Sedano for vice chair.
Okay.
Can I second
I'll second it for you.
I think you can, but I think it's better if someone.
I will second that.
it? Okay.
Christina, are you taking minutes?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if I need to get on something.
They're good.
So just, yeah, Carol, go ahead.
Format-wise, would you start with chair and go down? So
I was expecting to
So
start with
give
chair, but
people-
I didn't have a problem with Janet making her nomination
Okay.
for vice chair.
I don't know
Right, I just,
if it forms people's decisions as they go down. Do you know what I mean?
I think that I was waiting to see if we had multiple nominations in a contested election, or if we just had one nominee for each place, and that would affect how we will proceed with voting.
I think it's up to Janet. She made the nomination.
She made the nomination for vice chair.
for vice chair.
Is anyone else interested in being?
And I seconded it, so we have to act on it.
Oh, before we go to the next
Yeah.
step? Okay.
Well, if that's an appropriate order in which to do nominations was my question.
Yeah, so
From a
I didn't rule Janet out
Parliamentary
of order. Maybe you can argue I should have, but I didn't. So I think we're gonna go ahead, as
Okay.
Charlie said, and deal with the motion that's on the floor. Before I call the vote, I will actually is there anyone else that wants to make a nomination? I'll just wait a second to see if that is the case. I don't think there is. So not hearing any other nominations for vice chair, I think that a voice vote is appropriate unless you did.
No,
Okay.
if no one is.
So I'd like to call, no one is by Zoom, we don't have to call a roll call, we can do
I
it.
closed the Zoom since you're all here, so
Okay.
too as well, so.
So why don't we just, I think it's gonna be by acclamation. All in favor, say aye. And
Aye.
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 By acclamation, we have 6-0. Sue is the vice chair of the committee for the upcoming budget year. Does anyone want to make a comment or a nomination for the position of chair of the committee?
I do. I nominate Paul Regan for chairman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am willing to serve, I just want to make sure that it's not done, that if anyone else is interested,
I'm willing to second it then.
please speak up.
Well, I was gonna nominate you, so.
I'll speak to it in a second.
Okay, so we have a nomination and a second. So again, I will ask, does anyone want to make a comment or make an additional nomination?
I would say that I served for chair for 2 years, and I thought my second year was much smoother once you kind of learn what the job's like. So I think running in 2-year cycles makes sense
Okay.
for the chair position. It is the functioning of the committee.
Yeah, it takes a bit to get used to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
So, not hearing any other nominations or any other comments, I will go ahead and call a vote. Since it's just one person, I think we'll do it again by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That also passes 6-0. So, we have a chair and a vice chair. The next order of business is to interview our candidate for our open position. We publicized the opening both in the Bristol Buzz and on the website, and we received one application for our open position. That's Mr. Kenny here. Daniel is your name, but you go by Buzz, right?
Yes,
Okay.
long story.
Oh, actually, so if you would move, if you're gonna say anything to us, we need you near a microphone.
And I'm sorry, did you say Buzz?
Buzz, B-U-Z.
B-U-Z, got it.
And the application and resume, I printed out copies, those are in your packets if you want.
Yeah, okay, right here, I just didn't see Buzz, so I'm gonna put that.
So, I hope everyone has had a chance to read the application that
Oh, just.
Mr. Kenny prepared. I will start just with a comment that I had met him before. We both serve on the CIP committee, the Capital Improvements Program Committee. We were both appointed at the same time last winter, and that committee just recently started its work, and we managed to elect Buzz as the vice chair of that committee.
I was the guy at the archery
He was the guy.
event with the
He was the
apple on
guy
the
who
set.
stepped backwards last. And I know from you're also on the Energy Committee and the Penny Path Subcommittee.
Yes.
So, does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? Or do people need a minute to?
Well, I'm looking at the RSA, which we're
Okay.
going by, and
What do you see?
it's on page 58.
Yep.
Yeah, you know it, yeah. I don't think, the way I read it, and I had someone else read it too, I guess I question the town manager and the selectmen, as far as you shall serve as a member at large, so you can't vote. Are you aware of that, Christina?
That didn't come from us, that came from,
Huh?
that didn't come from the town, the select board or myself. That came from Ned Gordon and from Rayma as the town clerk. They told Paul what the process was he had to follow. But they can vote, their vacancies would be filled by appointment of the budget committee, and they would serve until the next meeting, so
I
there's
wouldn't, why doesn't the budget committee get the vote?
still. You
We
do,
are.
you are.
We are going to.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's-
So let Carol, go ahead. I was gonna.
Janet, how does that relate to this?
I'm not sure, I'm a little confused, so I was just gonna go back and describe the process.
We have to
So-
go in there.
So there,
Is that going there?
so let me,
Yeah, right, right.
Okay.
You sound like you skipped over
Yep.
that.
Oh, no, well, I did.
Let Paul describe the process.
Yeah.
And then we'll.
so let me explain the process as I understand it. I have not read the RSA, but I went through it a number of years ago myself, and then this past March, I talked to Ned Gordon, who is the
I know who he is.
person in charge of the elections, and he explained to me, he said, because at one point, it was told to me that and I had shared it with the committee at some point, that Rayma had said she was under the impression that when the election was held and there was a write-in, that the person who got the most votes would be offered the position. And if they did not accept the position, then the position would be offered to the person with the second most votes. So when I talked to Ned about that, he said, no, that's absolutely not the way it works. The person who has the most write-in votes is offered the position. If they do not, and that was Don Milbrand. And if Don does not accept the position, which he did not, then there is an opening on the committee, and it is the budget committee's responsibility to fill that opening, and that person that they appoint to that we appoint to the committee will serve to the next election. So even though you're taking a position that was up for election for a 3-year term that wasn't filled, you don't get appointed to a 3-year committee. You get appointed to serve to the next election, and we will have that position as a 2-year term on next year's ballot.
I think that's another 1-year term, actually.
Did I get the years wrong?
Yeah,
Okay.
because Rob was in his first year last year. This would have been Rob's second year. So
Right.
next year's third year. So
Thank you.
we'll
you.
have a 2 3-year positions and 1 1-year position next year.
But I think Rob, no, I think Rob was appointed to fill. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll go back and check that. I'm a little confused. I thought Rob was serving the last year of a 3-year
Oh, was he?
term.
He was.
He was.
Oh, okay.
He was,
That's
he was
what I
supposed to
thought.
run.
That's when you confused me too, because he was.
Okay.
But what shows up on the ballot next March is important, but it's not important to us right now tonight. The bottom line is, we as a committee are going to vote on appointing somebody to the open position. So at this point, we have one candidate. So it's going to be a question of either we're going to approve this candidate and name him to the committee, or we could vote not to name him and the position would stay open and we'd have to look for additional candidates. The way that it was handled when I joined the committee originally in that manner. There was an opening on the committee and I applied, and you guys brought me in and interviewed me, and then you went into an executive session and I left the room and I came back. Because my understanding is that having someone join the committee is basically, in my mind, is a 2-step process. So the first step is the budget committee has to vote to appoint them. And then, assuming we do appoint them, then they have to go see the town clerk and get sworn in.
Right.
So even if we appoint Mr. Kenny to the committee tonight, he won't be a voting member of the committee tonight. So rather than going into executive session and then coming back out into public session, I decided to put the executive session at the end of the meeting. So we're going to interview him now. We're going to, at the end of the meeting, when everything else is handled, we'll go into executive session and we'll vote on whether or not we want to appoint him. And then we'll let him know the outcome of that. If he is appointed, then he'll have to go see Rayma and sign the form and get sworn in.
Well, I'll just say this
Go ahead.
before we go into it. I would believe Rayma, because Rayma always calls Concord on questions. So that's, look, they're both intelligent people. I don't know the answer, but I'm just saying, I know Rayma always verifies things.
I thought so too, but when I talked to Ned, I went back and talked to Rayma, and she said, no, Ned knows more about elections than I do. If he says it's that way, then that's the answer. So,
There we go.
Can I say one
yes,
thing?
please, go ahead.
Okay, so this is where I don't want to be confused. So there were 2 open positions on the ballot.
Correct.
Okay, only one was filled, but they were both 3-year terms.
Correct.
Okay, so if Buzz is voted in, let's say, right, why wouldn't he be voted in for a 3-year term? This is totally different than a 1-year.
So
Okay, so it would be three.
the issue is that the RSA says
Yeah.
we don't appoint people to 3-year terms. We appoint them to serve to the next election. That's
Even though that's what the open position.
Even though that's the
what
open
only
position.
thing was.
Yeah.
even though it's a position that was a 3-year term that wasn't filled.
Right.
We cannot fill that for a 3-year term. We can only fill it to the next
Okay.
election, and then the voters get a say.
Right.
I mean,
So-
I would hope that if you get appointed to the committee, you will run again and probably run for the 2-year term to continue the term you're in, but that's, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to pledge anything, that's all in the future.
Right, okay. so-
Scary, isn't it?
Charlie,
done
you
it
gonna say
before.
something?
No.
Okay.
Okay, So
Have I explained, does everyone understand what so at this point, what I want to do is make Buzz available to the committee members to ask any questions, either about his residence. I mean, it's all in there already and written, but I think you might want to get to know him a little bit before later on tonight we're gonna vote on adding him to the committee or not.
So I only just have one thing, just because it seems like you just moved here in 2022.
I've been coming here all my life.
Okay, so that's what that's a big
Stayed at
thing.
Willamette,
So you knew
we
about
camped at
everything,
Nuttings.
because it sounded like you moved here and
I've
jumped
been a
right
property
into
owner
it.
since 1986.
Gotcha.
But my career wasn't in New Hampshire, so
No, it was New
would
Jersey.
come up to ski
Yeah,
and
yeah.
enjoy the lake, but I'm retired now and I moved here permanently in
Right,
a year ago, January.
yeah, exactly. Well, no, I was just saying because I didn't know about that part, because you have been, it says here in New Hampshire, you came on 2022 to the present time, and then you joined the Town Energy Capital Improvement. So I just was thinking you joined it right away, so you must have joined.
I was recruited.
I knew that.
I've known Paul Demas for
Do you
quite a
happen to
while.
live near Bruce
Exactly.
or Bill?
He lives over at Camelot Acres.
Yes, well, that's where they live.
Yeah,
You'll
well,
notice many people from Camelot.
Bill recruited me to the Penny Path Committee, and he's a very convincing salesman.
Yeah, there you go.
And I ran into Paul Demas the second weekend I was up here. He and Karen were out walking, and I served as I was active in both local and regional environmental affairs back in New Jersey. And when he found out that, he extended me an invitation to join his energy commission.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I didn't come here seeking involvement, but I was involved in New Jersey, and I enjoy it, and I like to give back to the town that I live in.
Sure.
And this town has given me a lot over the years, so I have no problem giving back.
Perfect.
I don't have any.
Go ahead, Walter.
I'm delighted a man of your qualifications has volunteered for this job. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, I'm not hearing any other questions. Buzz, is there anything you want to say to us to, make sure we're aware of, or?
Well, it's kind of hidden in the resume, but what I did as a lawyer for years was represent investment people in insurance companies making basically, they're called private placements, but they're large ticket loans, 25 million, 500 million, something like that. And part of that is the due diligence process, which involves reading financials. So I've done that for almost 40 years. I did some municipal bond work when I first became a lawyer, but that's well in the rear view. But I do know my way around a balance sheet.
Nice. Yeah.
Excellent. Carol?
Is Morris, New Jersey near Morristown? Is it?
They're adjacent. In fact, Morris Township doesn't have a post office box, so if you addressed things to me there, it would have said Morristown on the.
So you know where Denville and Indian Lake are?
I do.
Yes, that's where I lived in 5th and 6th grade when my
Cool.
parents lived there. So
It's a nice area,
Nice
but I
area.
don't miss the traffic.
yeah, it's not New Jersey as you think it is, but it still is not here.
I thought New Jersey was the turnpike, and I was shocked when I first saw all the hills of the
Yeah.
Highlands.
That's nice.
That it's beautiful country, it's just
Yeah.
way too crowded.
Okay.
I would
Go ahead, what were
have
you gonna
similar
say?
sentiments to what Walter said.
Yes,
So glad to hear it.
so I guess I'll say thank you for coming. We talked before the meeting, I'm happy that you're planning to stay here and listen to the rest, and you won't get to vote, but you'll be well aware of what's
I'll
going
get to
on,
learn.
assuming you get to join our committee.
Okay.
Can he get the paperwork also, or
He
not?
did.
Oh, he did.
Christina printed
Oh.
one out, and I think
Okay.
he took the cover sheet, but now he's gonna take the whole pack.
That's the whole meeting, so. Including your resume, I forgot to put it in there.
I've seen it. Thank you all.
Thank you. The next,
Excuse
go ahead, what's
Can
that?
we turn the air conditioning on, or the dehumidifier? It's like we could grow mushrooms right now.
Charlie was the only one smart enough to wear shorts.
Yeah,
I want to say.
well, I came from Boston and it's freezing down there.
Well, usually it's cold in here.
Usually it's cold in here, but I think somebody's been playing with the program.
I see
It says 75.
So, cause,
Thank
it's not
you.
coming on at all.
Your thermostat
With
doesn't
Nick,
have a
we used to
sign.
freeze.
Most thermoses have a sign that says, don't touch this.
Yeah, don't take it too low, but maybe
I put it
72.
at 72.
That's fine.
It
Yeah.
really gets cold in here.
Thank
It's
you.
the humidity as well.
Yeah, it is a little
It's really
stuffy.
stuffy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the next thing that is on the agenda is to discuss responsibilities and expectations. Seeing as we don't have any new members, I don't expect we're gonna need to take a lot of time talking about responsibilities, because it's the same responsibilities we all worked on last year, at least in my mind.
I will email out the PDF of the budget book. I have that PDF from when Nick was here.
This book?
Back in the day, I have a PDF of that.
Okay.
And I think you have the PDF too,
I
right?
can, cause I can put it on all your laptops too, but I can also email it out if you.
Oh, you do have the copy of it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's good.
Okay,
I think just make sure you breeze through that document again
Yep.
and refresh your memory of what our responsibilities are with from the RSA.
I would also suggest that when the classes are held, Christina,
Sorry, yeah.
could you be on the lookout? Because we missed out last year on going to the class.
I haven't seen it this year yet.
It's usually, I think, in November, and I really think everyone should go.
I'm trying to remember when it was, because I got appointed partway through the cycle 4 years ago, in like November, December. And I don't think there was any training immediately, but then the
Pandemic.
next year, Nick hooked me up, and it was during the pandemic, so it was
'Cause I
all remote
asked
with
if
the,
we
with the
lost
Zoom
it,
and the
yeah.
computer and whatever, but it's the municipal association, and it's all.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, well, I do think we might have shared, because you and I were the only ones who attended the budget one last year.
Oh,
Because I remember,
Yeah.
you did it and I did it,
Yeah.
but, there's a certificate course out right now, but I don't think that's what you want to do. It's, all on finances, finance officer,
No, yeah.
budgeting, the whole thing.
I'd love to,
Well,
but I'm not in that position
I'm
anymore.
gonna be attending that, for September and October, but I'll make sure I look for the class. It might be.
Yeah,
on
I
the
thought it
website.
was in November. I mean, they give you lunch and they pay the gas mileage.
Well, they only did a virtual one this last time.
Right, well, no, they did, right, and only so many could,
Yeah,
and we lost,
yeah.
I remember you saying, I haven't seen it, and Nick says, well, I haven't seen it, and I'm like, well, I know it's out there.
So,
But Bob was the one
No,
who, would set me up.
I'll look and see if it's on the website yet.
Yeah, basic law budget. And then
So-
what year is that one? Your basic law budget, what year is that book?
Oh, 17, I think.
Yeah.
so
I think
Chris-
we have the last year.
Christina,
I
as
have
a,
2017 too. Is there another way to get a newer one or no?
Do you want books or do you, because we didn't order books, but we
With the
can,
PDF.
we can do a PDF version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted, no, I don't want a PDF. I'd rather have a hard copy.
Well, you know what, I'll tell
I can't
you,
stand looking at
I'm
them.
with you.
Sue, just bring this up to Staples for like less than $5. You can get it bound. I've done recipe books and everything.
Oh, is that right?
Quoting, yeah.
Well, I mean, this
just
is
take a
probably
piece of
still,
it.
has not really been updated, I mean, right?
There's a new one.
Is there?
Yeah.
So, so let me do two things. If anyone wants that book.
Yeah.
I think what happens is Christina can send out the PDF.
Yeah.
You can either look at it as a PDF on your computer, or as Janet said, you take the file to Staples and they will print it into a book for you.
Yeah.
And for not very much money.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would have to download it,
Huh?
right?
You would have to bring your computer, or you have to put it on a flash drive, or yes.
Or send it, I usually send it by email.
Or you could email it to them if you have an account there.
Okay.
Just lots of ways.
I do have a Staples account.
I'm sorry, what's that?
You should be able to get it done.
Go to the class, they give it to
Just
you.
buy the book.
Yeah, they give it to me, yeah.
I might do that.
Yeah.
It's very
I like the
interesting.
class because
Yeah.
there's a lot, I had a lot of
In case I miss
interaction.
something. Absolutely, yeah.
So let me stop for a second. I think, Christina, if we haven't already made it clear, could we give you an action point to check the municipal association and find out when the next training is?
Yes.
Yep.
To let us know at the next meeting.
So I have the basic law of budgeting 2022, it's a colored PDF, so I can share it with you, and then we'll find out about ordering books for the ones who want books.
Okay.
So,
That sounds good.
And you'll investigate when the class.
yes, yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
And I'd like to revisit that when we're in executive session.
Okay. Okay, I'm not sure. We're going into executive session to talk about personnel things. I'm not allowed, are we allowed to talk about other things or just the things that we have a reason to go into executive session for?
The RSA that you have on there, if it's something that you want to talk about that could adversely affect the reputation of any person, then
Right.
then that could be.
So I guess what I'm saying, Jan, because I want to be careful about Janet, is that
Yeah.
if you want to talk about something that we don't have a good reason to make private, then we shouldn't talk about it in an executive session. We should talk about it in a public session because the people should know what we're talking about.
Unless it
Okay.
under the stipulation of your,
I haven't read it, I,
wait on
Um,
the agenda.
Can
I
we,
think
can we
going
go as a committee,
forward-
pull us out of, like, say, out of public session? You can't pull you I see the executive committee, they do this all the time.
So we can go to we can go into non-public executive session
Right.
for a valid purpose that the RSA allows us to.
Okay.
We can't go into public session simply because we want to say things that we don't want people to hear us say.
And you do have to advertise it, so
You have to say.
you have to advertise it that you're going to have a non-public session. So when the select board has theirs, they advertise A, B, C, and D most of the time because they know those are the four things that they normally have to
Yeah, I wondered how
discuss.
they did it. It was, because I've seen them do it. I was watching
Yes,
some videos and I'm like,
and
okay, well, you know.
It's on their agenda, so if you look at it, usually the first hour of their meetings is
They'll
a
put it there.
non-public session
Got
because it could be employee matters, it could be contract negotiate, stuff like that.
Anything, yeah.
But for yours tonight, I only did C because I didn't know what else you would need to do
Right.
when Paul and I were talking.
So I guess what I'm saying, Janet,
Sure,
as I
never mind.
understand the RSA, we're gonna go into executive session tonight to talk about the appointment to the open position. If we want to talk about something else in executive session, I think we should schedule it for the next meeting and publicize that we're doing that. But I'm not sure I understand why we want to go into executive session, what you want to
I'm
say
fine.
that
We
shouldn't
don't
be in
have to go
public.
on exec, no, I'm fine.
Carol,
All I was gonna say was, going forward, when we do have, secretary, I don't know what you would call Shannon, but she did everything.
she was our
She,
administrator.
oh my
Administrator.
God, she was great. I don't think that the town manager, the town administrator should be making copies for us.
I
You know, I understand, she's got more to do than just print stuff, you know?
So do you
That's
want-
my opinion.
I think Carol has.
Christina, do you want to comment on that, or do you want me to handle that?
I mean, I understand you're stepping in and helping, but you got,
We're not, so the position has potentially been filled, however, we have made a decision not to train this person to do this part of the job because they have certifications until they get their certifications done. So we are also
what certification?
they have to be certified in the town clerk tax
So-
collector's office.
So,
Yeah.
So let me explain, just so everyone knows. As part of the budget process for last year, the town proposed, and we put it in the budget, and the voters approved, to hire a part-time person to work in the town clerk tax collector's office. Since then, Christina has brought to the select board a proposal to add some hours to that part-time position, to also have that person be the administrator for our committee.
That's why she needs certification.
So,
It's not
so
for,
my understanding is Rayma, and I don't know the other woman's name.
I need to just clarify too.
Go ahead, please, go
The
ahead.
select board right now is looking at job descriptions for the full upstairs office, the executive office, so there may be a change to that. And that's why we don't want to train somebody in your committee yet until we're absolutely sure that's the person it's going to be.
So, to Christina's
In
point of view,
addition-
things are subject to change, but I will say, it is certainly my expectation, and I believe it's Christina's expectation, that she is not gonna be the administrator for this committee for the whole budget cycle year. She is doing this on a temporary basis because she thinks it's the best thing to do until we get resolved who the new administrator is gonna be.
I didn't know
And
that.
I'm hoping that will be sooner rather than later, so I'm
Yeah.
on the same page that you are, I
Yeah.
think, in that respect.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I am deferring to Christina because from staffing and executive positions, if she thinks this is the best thing to do, as long as the work gets done, I don't feel like I wanna argue with her.
That's the loveliness of government. There's no bottom line and no one's accountable, you know? That's the loveliness of it all.
Okay.
But,
And I believe you
okay.
appreciate it, you
Oh,
do,
yeah.
it's totally appreciative, but the thing is, like, we felt you had a lot on your plate. So in order for, to understand the whole situation, why we weren't getting, another person or something like that, that's why we, yeah.
What did you?
It,
Sorry.
So let me,
the other one I wanted to talk about was.
hold on, before you stop, before you move to another subject, Carol has something he
Oh,
wants to
I'm
add.
sorry, Carol.
No, it's okay. A couple things, we're a small town.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of people in the executive in this building, So I get it, you say you don't wanna have somebody that's making X amount of dollars making copies. But then again, do you wanna have your copies for a meeting or not? Somebody's gonna make them, and that's up to her to make that decision right this minute about who's sitting here, what is their job descriptions, and who can do this. If you want your copies, she's gonna decide who's gonna do that today, or next week, or whatever it is.
I
We
think,
have faith that she's making,
I think you just kind of said the same thing I did, which is in questions of staffing and assigning job responsibilities, that is not our call, that's the town administrator, and as long as the work gets done, I feel like it's not my place to complain. I'm hoping that Christina doesn't have this stuck with her for a long time, but I think it's a bigger issue for her, so I'm trusting her to resolve it.
And I think the second part of that is we've had about 14 months where this building has been a rotating door.
Right.
And she's been managing new people coming and going, and it's been pretty complicated for her particularly, but.
Well, that's why we knew she had a lot on her plate.
Right.
Exactly.
But
I just, that's all, I just
I
didn't,
thoroughly-
I didn't know someone was, this person that we were
No, I-
only supposed to have part-time now is increasing.
I thoroughly
And all I
agree.
see in all the departments is increase.
Well, Shannon,
Yeah,
the position she held was also a budgeted position.
Yeah.
So it's really taking that budgeted position
And shifting.
and shifting. It's not adding another position. It's funding something that we said, we agreed to.
This person was, so if this person is the person who does the job, they were advertised for 20 to 32 hours a week. 20 hours is with Rayma's office, and that's what was budgeted. And if they go over, they get charged for those, anything over in their office. And then the 12 hours, we estimated roughly for budget committee. And granted, some weeks it might be a little bit more than 12 hours.
I was just gonna say, 12 hours
Some
a
weeks
week?
it's only gonna be, Shannon didn't put in more than maybe 10.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, I was on the budget committee when Wendy did it all.
Yeah,
Took the minutes, too. That was,
so yeah, Shannon, some weeks she did like 2 hours, and some weeks she did 10 to 15. It
she
varies.
started out and she learned it,
Mhm.
and I watched her grow.
Yeah.
I think she was fantastic.
Yes, absolutely, she, right. The other complaint that I've heard is that, you have to have more control over Boak at the last meeting,
Okay,
because you let him ramble and ramble. And I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I'm just telling you it's out there.
okay, thank you for that feedback.
People are, and we've gone all through this, so that's all I have to say about it. I don't have to go in executive session.
Christina, do you raising your hand there?
Oh, not for both, but when you're done, sorry.
Okay, so what I wanted to do, did you have something, Carol?
Let me just tie the circle up on that. Janet, I don't disagree with you that it's everybody's responsibility to say, are we paying this person too much to do this job?
But we don't have any judge over that. We don't,
But as I was told when I worked for the state, why are you guys in spill response that get paid a pretty good salary out there shoveling snow off the trailers? There are spill response trailers. And we said they have to be ready to go. And I finally ended up saying to the boss, I'm okay, tell me who you want to do it. If you don't want us to do it, you have to find somebody to pay them. So here we go. The papers are here because the decision was made.
I think now that you guys have a little more information, because I guess I forgot, because I've been talking to Christina, and Carol as a select board member knows what's going on.
see?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we did.
So I'm happy to share that with you, and I think this was the appropriate place to do. I guess what I would like to do is move on with the understanding, if we get to, certainly if we get to 1st of November and you're still sitting in that seat taking minutes, we're gonna come back and give you grief. But for now, we're just gonna trust you to solve the issue and let us know what's going on.
So here's the other thing too, you are saving money because I'm the only one here.
Yeah.
I will be at all your meetings anyway as a town administrator, so.
Yeah.
But I understand your point.
That's not the,
Working on
that's
it.
not the,
No, no,
And,
you
and
also.
to be honest with you, when I started on the budget committee, town administrator never came to the meetings
I know,
until there was a fight.
the finance officer.
And then he started coming, and then he got permission to be god of the town, and, yeah. So it was never a position that we had him sitting there.
Just, the discussion.
You can
I
ask
had
Rob and Scott and Sean,
Yeah.
we never would see him.
The select board, I've had conversations with the select board and we've agreed that it's good to have the town administrator at the budget committee meeting, so. I had wanted to go back to committee responsibilities
Yep, I
and
wanna-
expectations with.
Thank you, that's where I wanna go
I have
back
a
to.
question, that's why.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to double check too, because I'm gonna be doing some of the training for this person when they do start. I know Janet responded, she likes paper copies, Walter
I
likes
do.
paper, and you like paper too,
Yeah.
correct, Sue?
Yes.
Do you prefer paper?
I would rather not have paper.
And depending on if Buzz gets the position, do you prefer paper? Okay, alright.
We used to have notebooks, we used to have big 3-ring binders given to us.
I'm surprised, so
I make my own
We
binder.
do
I
that
get the
for-
papers and I make holes in it.
Right.
we did bind, so I will tell you, I don't know why it's not done for the budget committee, but we've established this with the select board, we've established this with all the land use boards, we do welcome binders when, so all the members get binders, one with all of their materials in it if they
Mhm.
wanted it. And then we would do welcome binders with new members.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure why that stopped with the budget committee, but that could be something we could talk about over the, I
That's
may
good.
not have it right away for you, but that could be something we could get together for you.
But not for each meeting, if that's what Janet said.
No, we
No,
used to
no,
have
no.
it every meeting.
Well,
That's
so
not-
you, no, yeah, the materials would go, we
Yeah.
would bring it and they would just go in the.
I have printed on my home printer.
So I understand what she means, so everything
Yeah.
would just go in their binder, but.
Jen, and I assume what you're saying is you can print letter paper, but you can't print the 11x17?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Walter, yes.
Shannon did a wonderful job. Was her departure a crime of our omission?
I talked to Shannon, I don't think I'm betraying any confidences. She told me that she was thinking to resign. I told her that we wanted her to stay. She said she would reconsider. She actually, at one point, said that she would stay, and then something happened in her personal life, and she decided that she needed the time for her own self, and she didn't want to spend it in her, I don't know if this was her second or third job, but she decided she didn't want to work this extra job.
Okay.
We would have been happy for her to stay. It was 100% Shannon's decision to resign.
Okay.
Okay.
She actually resigned much earlier and
And we talked her out of
we
it.
had a talk with her and she agreed to stay through the end of the budget season, so. I told her if she had to absolutely leave, she could, we weren't gonna tie her to a chair, but she agreed to stay through the end of the budget. And then she scaled back, she's only working one job.
Wow.
She's very happy in her one job.
I think she was burnt. She told me the same thing. She was
Yeah.
very burnt. It
So
was time to move.
so
Yeah.
That answered
to
my
make sure
question.
you're clear
I'd
on
be
that.
very upset if I thought I helped let her down by not being
No,
here.
no.
She was just burnt. It was time to go, she said.
So I think for the moment, there's nothing more that I would want to say on responsibilities. I do like the comment that we'll get the books, we'll get the information on things, it's got the RSAs, it's got that. We'll give people a chance to look at that, and then at a future meeting, hopefully the next meeting, but we'll see how things work. We can come back to this subject and see if anyone has any additional comments. But I think there's no other things to talk about with responsibilities right now. But I'm hesitating because I want to give you guys a chance to speak up if you disagree. Okay, so having said that, the other part of this is expectations. So one of the things, let me see, I don't want to jump ahead, I kind of want to stay on the agenda. But when I think of expectations, I'm kind of thinking about last year, we talked about, did we want to give some direction, say, to the department heads, that we wanted them to try to hit. Am I out of order here?
It's budget, you have.
Oh, I jumped out ahead. So that's my expectations of budget goals for the department heads. It's a separate item on the agenda, so I'm jumping ahead. Well, I'll wait and come back to that. I guess the other thing on expectations that I would bring up is just meeting attendance. So two things. One is the town has gone to this new Outlook scheduling system. So now you're getting an email that says you're invited to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to strongly urge you to respond, accept, or decline so that we get a response back to the town, so we know how many people are coming, so we know that we have a quorum, so that we know that there's no problems. We have to
I
have.
don't know what that new thing was.
we-
I hit it. but I
Yeah,
wasn't
see,
sure.
that's another thing you should.
So
Yeah.
I'm bringing it up now because it's a new thing,
It is,
and it's
yeah.
something new for me too.
But I wasn't gonna bring it up.
Oh,
See?
I'm gonna bring it up because it's a new thing.
Yeah.
So the as far as I know, the town is doing this with all the committees, all of the boards, all of the people like that, because they're using it as I guess I'm gonna say they're using it as an attendance management tool to make sure they know who's coming, and because sometimes some of our committees have trouble getting enough people to actually have a working quorum. We don't tend to have that. But again, to remind everyone, if you're out of town, we'll make it Zoom available. But if you're participating by Zoom, you don't count. They relaxed the RSA during the pandemic. Now that we're out of the pandemic, they've taken away the relaxation. You have to be here in the room to be counted towards the quorum. We have a 7-member committee. We have to have 4 people in this room in order to hold the meeting.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Even when somebody's absence is totally justified?
Correct.
So if we had 4 people who had totally justified absences, and we only had 3 people in this room, we would have to postpone the meeting, or we would have to have a meeting. We wouldn't have a meeting. We could sit around and talk, but we couldn't have any votes, we couldn't take any formal action because we don't have a quorum.
My attendance on the thing wouldn't count.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
When you accept the invitation, that doesn't mean you're in the meeting. It just means you're telling Christina and the town that you have accepted the invitation and you're intending to be here. If you break an ankle between when you respond and when the meeting is held, we would expect you're at the hospital and you're not here. Unexpected things can come up.
You're not gonna send out, once again,
So
she's gonna send out.
the administrator, who used to be Shannon,
Yeah,
we're expecting is gonna be someone else in the future,
yeah,
and in the present right now is Christina.
yeah.
I don't have access to that system, they send that out. So our administrator is gonna be the person doing that work.
I don't mind anyone else doing it, I hope you get someone, because it's not fair to her, to be honest,
So
it's
you
not
have to
fair.
accept it, right? But let's say you accept it, but you're out of town and you wanna go on Zoom, so then you would have to send a separate email. So you just accept it and then send a separate email saying, but only by Zoom? Or how would you?
I want Christina to respond to that.
So there are 3 so
There's a third option?
if you don't want to accept it, you don't have to, as long as you reply and say that you're going
As
to
long-
be
okay.
there, right?
Yeah.
But there are 3 options in the invitation. There's one, it just says accept and send response now. There's
Yes.
one where you can edit your response, so you can say that you are going to be out of town and you'll attend by Zoom,
Okay,
or there's one that you can decline.
okay.
So the one thing though I do wanna point out is that when you accept this, it pops your materials into
Oh,
your
yes,
email.
yeah, yeah.
I
Actually, I
set
didn't
it
accept it and it popped in.
So I tried to put it on the bottom of the email so that you would know that that's
Yeah.
where it went. But it does move it into your calendar if you.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So I was gonna bring that up, so I wanna make sure everyone is clear. So when you get the invitation and it has attachments, my experience is if you click on those attachments and try to open them,
Yeah.
you can't.
Oh, I did,
You did,
I did,
okay?
tonight.
When I tried, in the invitation, when
Yeah.
I tried, it wouldn't. When you say either accept or
See, that's what
decline
mine
or
showed
something,
Yeah,
then
Oh.
it goes into your
Yeah.
calendar. The
Yeah.
email goes away, and when you open your calendar, the attachments are there, and then you can open those.
yeah, mine.
But in the original email saying you're invited to a meeting, if
Yeah.
you try to look at the attachments, I don't believe the system will let you. You look at the attachments after you've accepted, or if you decline the meeting, does it still pop to your calendar? Because you have to get access to the attachments.
So, I mean, we don't have to put your attachments with your calendar invite. We would just invite, if you prefer, we can just.
Which is
invite you to
easier
the meeting.
for you? Which is easier? I mean, really?
So attaching it to the calendar is much easier because you're done. You just attach it, send the invite, and you're done with the meeting.
There,
So-
that's the
I'll still
answer.
do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will tell you right now, I will be gone the month of February again. And I will attend by Zoom, even though it won't count.
Right.
But I will be. Yeah.
So you'll remind us again when
Yep.
it gets closer.
Okay,
and
do you
we'll
need
take
it in
that-
writing? 'Cause I don't
not.
wanna-
I do not. So, expectations. So the other thing I was gonna say is,
Sorry.
the same type of thing. If you know you're not coming, please let me know ahead of time that you're not gonna be there. And if you've got I think the way we've done it in the past is, as long as you notify me, you're out. As long as you notify me, you're inexcused. I'd like to make more of an effort to be at the meeting. So if you've got a reason not to be here, that's fine. If you just say, it's a cold, snowy day and I really don't want to drive to town hall, I'm telling you that I'm gonna reserve the right to give you some grief back.
And you're allowed 4 absences.
And it's consecutive that matters.
Yes.
Looking
Yes.
at the
Yeah.
RSA, remember?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah. I
you
read
can be
that.
absent actually multiple times as long as they're not consecutive.
Yeah.
But you do run into problems when they're consecutive
But,
absences.
but I guess what I'm trying to say is I wanna share my expectations are, the RSA might allow a certain thing, but I think part of the strength of our committee is having multiple viewpoints and multiple people asking questions, and so that we do a better job when more people show up. So I wanna let you know that I'm encouraging attendance, and I'd like for
So
people to
do
be here as
you
much as
get
possible.
what, do you know when we accepted Christina?
No, I
You don't know?
I do not know.
Well, that seems like a
I have
crazy
to, I
thing.
have to call or stop by or phone or email Christina
That
and ask her
doesn't
what's
make any
going on.
sense.
But in the future, it won't be Christina, it will be our administrator.
Do you
Right.
have Outlook?
I do not, but if I can set it, I have a Hotmail account, so I can set it up.
Because you can see
Okay.
who's accepted if you
I'll set
do.
it up then.
So we
So now let's see, hold on, there was one other thing on expectations, let me think for a second. So 2 things. One is, I think now's the time to talk about computers.
We can, sure.
Okay. So Christina has told me, so in the past, last year, we would come in and we would get a computer at random and we could do what we wanted to do with it.
Right. We couldn't remove it.
The town, you still can't remove it. The town is going to a new system. So we have been assigned computers.
Okay,
So the computer in front of you, if you look on the box that's down by your feet, has a select board member's name and a budget committee
oh,
person's
that did
name.
last year too.
Yeah.
And now, when you get to the main screen,
Yep,
there's a place to pick. Are you the select board member or are you the budget committee member? You say you want the budget committee, it asks you for a password.
yeah.
All the computers had the password, put them in before you arrived. I'm not gonna announce the password in an open meeting,
Everyone wants to
But-
know it on.
but it's going to be in the folders, which we've had in the past,
Yeah.
and if anyone needs it. But what I want to make clear is, all the files from all the meetings will be kept on the computer. If you want to go in and do analysis and you want to keep your own files on the computer, you're allowed to. No one else should be looking at that.
But you'd have to
you're
come
not,
in
but,
here.
but because the computer is also used by a select board, you can't take it home and keep it between meetings. You have to come here to
Right.
conference room.
So
meetings.
to access this, I'd have to come in this building.
Correct.
I'd rather have a piece of paper.
I thought you would say that,
Yeah.
but I wanted to let you know that you have that option.
No,
The other-
well versed in
The other
computers.
the other thing you can do, I believe, if you want to, is you can work on things at home, put it on a flash drive, come to the meeting and put it on this computer, and then it will always be on your committee computer. This is nothing anyone has to do. I'm making sure you know that this is now a new system and there's new options, and if you want to use a town-owned computer, it is available to you, is what I'm trying to say. Please, Christina, correct me.
So what we have, the reason this is like this is because we had to make it so that when the select board logs in, they're able to log in and you don't have access to their stuff.
Right,
In the past, you did.
okay,
And they had access to yours. The supervisors of the checklist use these and everybody had access to their stuff, and that's a bad thing too. So we had to have them all wiped completely, because they also had the former IT company's information on them and we couldn't get it off. So we had them wiped, we had them reset back up so that the budget committee has a login, the select board has a login, the supervisors have a login.
so is the budget committee one login?
Yes.
Yep.
And so I make sure, I have them, but I didn't wanna I wanna put them in your folders so that you have them in case you need them.
Okay, that's,
When you come in, the plan would be to have your folder right on the desktop, like it's on the screen up here. And it's labeled 8:15, so for tonight's meeting, your materials would be right in the folder that you need for that meeting, or printed, for the people who need it printed. And then when this meeting's done and we set it up for the next meeting for you, there'll be a new folder, most likely up in the corner that says budget committee meetings, and we'll just put your folders in there, so in case you wanted to look back at a meeting, now you can. And you'll be able to see that, so.
So otherwise, now when I came on, I just clicked it. Is it
Yes, 'cause
because
I
I'm not
logged-
signed in, because you are.
I logged everybody in and I set everybody's folders on there. So your admin should do that for you, but if something happened and it went to sleep,
Yeah.
you need to know what that password
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So we'll put them in.
that's happened to Walter, remember when we first got them?
So we'll make sure they're in your folders,
Right.
but.
So there's one other thing, I don't know if this is quite under expectations, but I wanted to share with you something that I learned earlier this year. So in March, I was elected to trustee of the trust funds, and the town said, oh, you're new at this job, there's some training going on, do you want to go to the training? So I did go to the training. So one of the things that they talked about in the training, and it applies to us in this committee also, the chances of this happening are small, but I want to make sure you're all aware of this. If for some reason we got into a legal pissing match with somebody, and they did discovery on us, and they said, we want to see all your records. If you use your personal email to get all your budget committee stuff, they could theoretically demand access to your email account because you have town records on it.
Makes
Now,
sense. But-
So I talked to Christina, having a town, having so-and-so at townofbristol.com like the select board has is doable, but it's a pain and it's expensive. So the town is willing to do it for the select board, it's not willing to do it for anyone else.
Understood.
I don't have a problem with this, but I want you guys to know that if you think that there's something in your personal email that you absolutely positively under any circumstances don't want anyone else to see, I want to say you might want to set up,
Second
you
email.
know, Janet, I'm picking on you, Janet, I
Yeah.
don't mean to, Janet's
That's
budget committee at hotmail.com, set up a separate account and do all your budget committee out of that.
Yeah.
If you're concerned about this. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't really think this is ever gonna happen, but legally, it is possible.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure you're aware of it.
I never thought about that, but it's on when you guys email me back, it's my business.
Correct. So you in particular might wanna think about setting up a separate account.
Even worse, It's even worse.
It is even worse. but-
I'll actually ask to audit yours.
So I just wanna make it clear, if you want to do that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just send an email to me with your new email address.
Yeah.
And I'll share it with everyone else, and all the notes that go out in the future will go to your new address, if that's
Okay.
what you want,
well, yeah.
okay? I'm just sharing at this point. I think that's it for responsibilities and expectations. Anyone else have anything else they wanna bring up? Walter?
Just
My
a quick,
computer-
I'm sorry.
Go first.
My computer's my wife's computer.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone in that. That means the notice I get,
So it doesn't mean that they can go in, I don't believe it means they can go in and look at everything on your wife's computer. But your email address, which is like walterw3 at
Yeah.
something, at Fairpoint or at Comcast or Metrocast or something, anything that's in that account, they can potentially look at. They can't, go ahead.
You don't want that email out. Remember,
Oh.
we're in public.
Sorry, my mistake. I'm sorry, Walter, I just said, well, I don't know what it is, it's something like that. Here,
Yeah, so if you can set up, it's only your email. And if you want, you can set up a separate email.
I'm gonna have to.
if you're,
Mine was just a
if
silly
Sue,
thing.
if Sue can help you, that's great. If you want help from somebody else,
I
I'm
was
willing to
just
come
gonna-
over and help you. Or I think
Yeah.
Janet.
No,
is.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
okay.
was gonna say, before you set something up, the select board meets Thursday, and Carol thinks we should talk to the select board.
Yeah.
To see if we could do the Bristol and H.gov accounts.
Okay.
So we'll talk to them and I'll let you know by Friday, and then
Okay.
that way you'll know.
Okay.
If they can't set you up one, then you're ready to go, you can set one up for yourself,
That's a
so.
really good tip, Phil, Paul, thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you, Carol. So Janet, I'm sorry to cut
That's
you,
okay,
but
that's
what
okay.
did you have?
So, I'm sure most of you don't know what I used to do for work, but I worked in Boston, I'm an accountant.
Yeah, I knew you.
I'm due diligent,
Okay.
okay? Everything's gotta be conformity with me.
Okay,
The committee schedule
okay,
is in military time.
yes,
Can that be matching with everything else?
it can.
Okay. I mean, I even noticed on the town report, I was different fonts being
So
used.
that's the next agenda item, and I was gonna bring that up when we
Okay.
talk about it.
Okay,
So now moving to the next item, which is the draft schedule. So let me start with just a thought. So I told you guys early in this meeting that I'm now on the CIP committee. One of the things that they did, which is a little bit different, that I really like, that I'd like to propose that we do going forward in future years. So the CIP committee is similar to us in that they have a part of the year where they have an intense number of meetings, and another part of the year
They don't normally do that, Paul.
have the setup meeting in April.
So they do a voting meeting in April, but because they had a few open positions, the schedule got changed because of the chair.
Right,
That's why they did that, but we usually set their schedule.
okay,
Once we get an agreement on the date, but because of the fluctuation, new members coming in, the chair leaving, that's why, once we get it set, we usually set it, but I do like your idea, so.
so what I was gonna say is what that committee did, which we don't, so they're generally working from early August through October. So what they did was, after the March town meeting, they had a committee meeting, a relatively short committee meeting in April or May in the spring, and they elected their chair and their vice chair for the coming meeting, and they discussed the schedule for the upcoming budget, work schedule, so that all the committee members got a chance to talk about, what day of the week works best, and what do we think we want to do, and this and that. So rather than just letting the holdover chair serve all the way through the summer,
Yeah.
we would meet for one hopefully relatively short meeting in the spring to elect the new chair and the vice chair and talk about, schedule. So having said that, I don't know whether I put this in any of the email, I think I did, but I wanna make sure you're clear. In past years, I know, we would have our meetings on Tuesday night here in Conference Room A, and I don't know if it was the EDC and or the Historic District Commission would have a meeting in Conference Room C, which is the smaller room on the other side of the building. Currently, with no police station, the police are kind of scattered. They have a room at the fire station, but they also have a bunch of rooms here in the town hall, including Conference Room C. So there are less conference rooms available until a new public safety building gets built. The police are occupying some spaces that we used to use, and hopefully in the future will use, for town meetings. So scheduling this year is much tighter than it has been in past years. So one of the things that Christina said to me was, she said, Tuesdays are already pretty busy. You guys would probably have more flexibility if you went to Mondays. And I said, well, that's interesting, but I'm not willing to just change the date without discussing it with the committee.
You did put that in an email.
So I worked with Christina to look at what the current meeting schedule is and what some other committees have already made claims on things, to come up with a schedule that I think works for us. But we also would have the ability to make even more drastic changes if we wanted to change from Tuesdays to Mondays. I basically, so let me think before I go on. I want to address kind of what you just said, Janet. I put this together kind of for my own benefit to give to Christina to take a look at.
So are you the military
And then
person?
she and I. And if you look at my watch now,
Oh,
so my watch right now says it's 1902.
no! I haven't seen military
So
time.
so it was interesting.
Oh my God, in years.
So
And
I don't know if you guys will get a laugh. I don't know, Carol, if you heard this one or not. But, I mean, I put this spreadsheet together for my use, and I use the formats that I use. And then I shared it with Christina, and we modified it a little bit. And then she sent it on to the department heads so they would know when we want them to show up to come to a meeting.
Yeah,
And I got an email.
As a draft, because you had.
As a draft, because
Yeah.
we hadn't talked about it.
Yeah.
I got an email from one of the department heads saying that at the department heads meeting, they all had a good laugh and they think I'm crazy and the thing is a hot mess. And why the hell am I using military time
Yeah.
and European date format?
yeah.
The date format is the problem for me.
So,
I kept looking at that saying, good, we're meeting the 24th all the time.
so what I can do is actually, those are not text fields, those are actually data fields. I can
Okay.
change the format in the spreadsheet. I was probably gonna do it anyway for the department heads, but I'm also hearing for this committee that anything I put out in the future should be in US date format and AM PM time format. I will bow to the wishes of the committee and do that in the future.
What I wanna know is how the hell you got that on one page?
Well, that's part of.
Nick had it on 2 pages, I was like amazed.
So this, let's see, this basically sticks to what we've kind of done in the past, where we said we didn't want to meet on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We didn't want to meet on the Tuesday directly before or after Christmas. So for the most part, this room is already scheduled on the first and second Tuesday of every month. So things got moved a little bit. One of the things that Christine and I did was we said that the meeting in early October that we normally have with the non-profit groups, and we don't vote on anything, we just meet with them and talk to them. I said we'd be willing to move to the historic town hall for that. It's still early enough in the year that the building shouldn't be super cold. We might not have to. And then at the end of the year, when we get to, we need to hit certain marks in order to approve the budget and sign the form and have the public hearing and whatever. At that point, we pull rank and we tell one of the other committees we have to have the room on that first Tuesday in
Because we don't
February or
need
something.
this big room, generally,
Well,
I mean, it's just us.
The problem is that for like the CIP committee,
Right,
they record, my understanding is they record the meeting and then they post it on the web page and you can go and look at it.
No,
But, do I have it wrong?
right, they record the meeting for minute taking purposes. We do not have their minute taker come to their meetings for any of them, because they have an administrative assistant, but the minute taker is different for the land use boards. So they record it using Zoom.
Okay.
And because we don't have Kate come to all of those
But-
meetings.
But for the select board and the budget committee,
Right.
we live stream
Live
these
stream.
meetings. And this is the room where we have all the equipment to do all
Oh,
of
that's
this.
right.
So
Oh, I
it's a-
could never figure
The
out.
reason,
why
the
we had
reason
this
that we
wrong.
have to be in this room is for public access,
Didn't realize that.
okay? Because I talked to Christina about that also, and that's why I know, because she corrected me.
Obviously, we're on the same page.
But in a meeting where we're not gonna do any voting, and we're meeting with the public, and potentially we have not only scores of people from the nonprofit agencies, we also have people from different town groups come. Maybe having a bigger space works, and it also works because it avoids a conflict if someone else needs this room. All of that, all of the rooms are subject to change as Christina clarifies schedules and other committees do things. So, I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look at this.
I
Do we
haven't,
want?
I'll be honest, I didn't have.
Well, let me stop, go ahead.
The only one thing that you probably should discuss is the tentative department head.
Yeah, I was gonna do that second. What I wanted to do first was to get a feel from the committee. Do we wanna stay on Tuesdays, or do we want to consider moving to a different date, which would, I'm pretty sure be Monday, because other days are, Thursdays I know are not available, and Fridays are not a good idea for anybody. It's the
I'm
weekend.
retired, it doesn't matter, Monday or Tuesday. People who work, you should make the decision.
Okay.
Or have
Charlie, do
kids.
you have a preference?
I think this schedule is fine, so I don't see a problem.
You would like to
keeping
stay
it
on
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with how these meetings
Okay.
are set up and
Okay.
what dates they're at. And I like the idea of the April meeting.
Okay.
I do like that idea.
Okay, so the other, I have to look, did we put it in here, Christina, or did we take
Sorry,
it out?
I missed that.
So the department, so in the past, the second meeting of the first meeting is this one where we elect officers and do this stuff. And then the second meeting normally is where we have all of the department heads come in, and we've called that like an upper level review, where they kind of give us a heads up on what's happening with their budget. I talked to Christina about that, and I agree with the idea that that's probably just yet another meeting that our department heads have to go to. And it's
Thank
not a whole lot of value to us.
you! You're right.
Because we're gonna have them in later to have a detailed discussion about what's going in the department.
Yeah.
So what I'm proposing is that we strike that meeting from our schedule.
Yep.
And that I'm probably going to, and I'm gonna suggest to anyone else, if you're interested in hearing that discussion, the department heads have that discussion with the select board when the select board works on their version of the budget that's gonna get passed to us. So if
Do
you
we
will,
know when the select board's gonna,
we will let the department, what, I'm sorry?
They haven't set theirs because they're waiting for, I can't set it until I'm sure that this is pretty much what you're going to
Right.
stay with.
So what I was gonna say, Janet, is, no, I don't know, but we will
Will we
know.
know?
We will know
Okay,
before the
fine.
meeting happens, and we
Yeah.
will let everyone know.
Yeah.
So if you wanna go to all of the select board meetings where they're gonna talk to
Mm-hmm.
department heads about budgets, you're welcome to. If you have a specific department you're interested in, we'll make sure that everyone knows when that department head is
Mm-hmm.
gonna be meeting with the select board. And we should just go and sit in the room and listen to the
Absolutely.
department head with the select board. We shouldn't require the department heads to come to another meeting with us.
yep, but
Okay.
I have thought for years, why are we dragging these people in?
Oh, good. I'm so happy. I thought I was gonna get fight back. I
Nope,
think I'm hearing
not
you.
for
I'm
me.
reading it.
And-
No.
And I did poll the department heads, the select board, and they both also felt it was redundant and was hoping that the budget committee would agree.
And
Oh.
I also feel like it's actually more useful for us to understand the select board's point of view.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Than what the
Absolutely.
department's heads.
Right,
Anyways.
they're gonna get.
I think what's
yeah.
lacking often is our understanding of the priorities of the select board. So I think us going there and seeing that priority is important.
Yeah, like, did we know about all the software we're buying and
This is,
Well,
I mean, that's what I mean, that's what I wanna know, like.
this isn't software that we're buying, this is Outlook, we all use Outlook. the change in that software, so
So that doesn't cost us anything.
we're already paying for it. It's just we're
Through
using it
Microsoft.
in a different.
And so you should say that in advance.
We're
Okay.
using that in a more efficient way.
Yeah,
So,
you know I'm going to that.
Alright,
What does it cost? That's,
so,
well, and Office 365 does cost. It's substantial cost,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but it's the best tool for us to be able to communicate. Microsoft is included, Excel, it's a package, so, but it is a substantial cost.
Certain
And there's security features that go along with
Yes,
it too.
there are
That
security,
we
and it
all-
updates automatically
Yeah.
with Office 365, so.
There's a certain billionaire's philanthropy we have to support.
so the other thing I will mention, I tried, I don't know, I'm not sure that the dates are exactly right, but for my own planning purposes, I also put things in this draft schedule that aren't, there are some things that are in addition to our meetings. So I tried to put down, like, there's a deadline, I don't know if it's the right deadline, but it's the deadline for the department heads to submit their budgets to the finance office, and then when the select board has to give us a budget, and things like that. I think I even put in here at one point, what's the deadline to sign up for elections, because at least 2 of us will be
Yes.
terming out, and you'll need to, actually 3 with the appointed position. And the deadline for petition warrant articles I put in there. Because I think that it's, even though it's not our responsibility, it's kind of good to know, just so that we kind of know what the whole flow of work is.
Yep.
So that was my aim there. So assuming we've agreed that we're gonna not have a department head budget meeting, then our next meeting, because that would normally be in mid-September, we actually don't meet again until
October 10th.
early October, October 10th, with the outside agencies to go over their requests, to give them a chance to give us more information. We don't vote on that at that night, but we basically take public testimony. And then you can go through the rest of this and see what it says.
The dates later on, when we went to look for the NHMA hadn't posted their dates yet, so once I get those dates, I can fill in the rest of them at the bottom of the list. But
Okay? So, I don't know that we had voted in the
This
past.
is it your job as the chair to set a schedule?
That's what I was gonna ask.
And that's why you can cancel meetings without our,
Okay, so this is the draft meeting schedule. I think what Charlie's just said to me is, he said, no, Paul, you don't need to take a vote, this is your responsibility. But I wanna make it clear that it might be my responsibility, I might have the authority to make changes, but I'm looking for your input. I'm looking to take your input if something needs to be changed. So if you see something now, please speak up. If you didn't really get a chance to look at it, and you look at it over the next week and you've got some input, please get back to me and let me know.
that's fine. I would just suggest,
Yep,
okay?
I will change.
This is me being a
dates.
pain in the
Go ahead,
ass.
what?
Your initials and the date.
At the bottom for the
Yeah.
rev control.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I can't help it.
If you,
it's, you put them at the bottom corner, like it's an updated.
I understand what you're saying, Jen. I tend usually to build that into the file name. I usually put like a date string in my file name, so I know what it
Right, so
is.
when you
But
rev it up.
I'll put it at the bottom of the page so that when it gets printed out, you also see it.
Right, exactly.
I will do that.
Thank you. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So what I'll do, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm not hearing any requests to change this. What I'm gonna do
It's a good
is
job.
make sure that that there's nothing else, and I'll change the date and the time formats, and I'll send it to Christine.
and cancel that tentative meeting.
Tentative meeting, and I'll send, and then you'll get a new copy of this with the dates and times in better format.
Thank you.
Okay.
And also, I noticed,
Yeah.
this has been bothering me, Christina, since the town meeting, so I mustn't get it out now. I noticed, when Paul Demas had, printed his, energy proposal on the warrant, he, talked in his points, his bullet points, I think it was a book or something, but he never put anything in footnotes, so you could never refer back to what he was talking about.
So that was a petition warrant article,
So what does that mean? How is that
So-
different than a warrant article?
a petition means that it had at least 25 registered voters sign it to put it in. We can't control the wording, but we did allow him to put a page into the display screen. And we have to put it in the warrant, but we can't change the wording in the town report.
But you couldn't require the person submitting the warrant to put a footnote in? How can you refer back?
We can't even change, if the wording is wrong, we can't even change the wording. If the wording, his wording was wrong, we couldn't change it.
Right.
We could tell him it was wrong, so they wanted to fix it at town meeting,
Right,
but we can't even change it on a petition warrant article.
Yeah.
So,
okay, didn't know that.
yeah. We
Which
usually,
actually,
go ahead.
truthfully, that's in fairness to a citizen who is putting forward a warrant article, which the town agencies and governing body might not agree with. We can't mess with what they've said, that's the idea.
And the citizens that support it.
Right.
Right, so
Right.
the governing body can't mess with the wording the citizens desire.
When they turn
But
it in,
how can he refer to something and I can't read that it's valid what he's saying? That doesn't make any
with
sense.
a petition warrant article, that's unfortunately what
Wow.
happens, but. So
Okay.
for his particular instance, they didn't turn everything in until the last day.
Mhm.
So when we told him the wording was wrong, he would have had to go out and get all the people who had signed the petition to re-sign a corrected petition. And they
Oh,
couldn't do that in time. So-
that's why, I didn't even know that. Oh,
So,
okay. I'm done.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
All right, so I think we're done with the schedule. The next item is bylaws. So every year we,
I did, and but I
Discuss.
did not print those out, I'm sorry, because those were from 2019. They're in the computer, and I can certainly print someone a copy if they needed it, but I didn't print them out for this meeting, sorry.
But they've been unchanged now for
Since
the last 4 years.
2019, yeah.
I've got it printed out from last year,
They seem-
so. yeah.
right, so I don't see a need to make any changes, but
No. I
we
didn't
have always included it on the agenda in the
Right.
first meeting to give the committee a chance to propose and make changes. So if somebody else would like for us to consider a change, I wanted to make sure that you have that opportunity.
I'll surprise you
Not-
and say nothing. How's that?
Thank you, Janet. So not hearing anything at this point, I'm gonna move on to the next agenda item. Again, I will say, if this caught you by surprise and you wanna go and look at the bylaws and come back at a later date, I just will remind you that if you want us to consider changes to the bylaws, don't just come to the meeting. You would need to have it in the agenda so that the public is aware we're gonna discuss it. So you will need to let me know, a week in advance and that's true for anything.
And there's probably legal issues with this too.
So so I'm saying that for the potential future reconsideration of bylaws, but I'm glad I said it because it reminds me, that's true for anything.
Yeah.
If you want something discussed at an upcoming meeting, if we're gonna take action on it, it really should be in the agenda so that the public is aware we're gonna do that. So make sure you ask for that before the meeting.
I just want to clarify too, in your bylaws, you have to have a majority vote of the budget committee at a regular or special meeting and should be readopted by the second meeting following town meeting. So
This
this
is
is
the
the
first.
first, so you'd have to do it by the next meeting if there was something you wanted to have changed.
Okay, so thank you.
Well,
So-
it
Carol?
does only say should,
Should, but
just throwing that out there.
We should,
We can ask our lawyer.
we should.
Everybody's a lawyer.
Yeah, right. Isn't that the truth?
although
Carol?
it's really weird, it
I'm
says that in B, and then in C it says you can adopt them from time to time.
So Carol, I hear what you're saying, and if there's a major problem, I would certainly consider making changes, but I kind of do like the idea that if we're gonna make changes, we make it early in the system. I wouldn't wanna go through half of the budget process and then change the rules and
Sure,
continue
sure.
on. So if you do wanna take the time after this meeting to review the bylaws, and you find something that you think you want changed, let me know before say by beginning of October, so it goes on the agenda for the October 10th meeting. I'm not gonna put the bylaws on the agenda unless someone asks for it.
And if somebody needs a printed copy, just let me know and I'll make one. You want, okay?
Okay. So now we get on to budget goals for department heads. So I think we generally do talk about, do we want to set, I think in the past we have said we want the budget heads to try to aim to not exceed a certain percentage increase, and if the increase is more than that, we want them to flag things that they think are high-ticket items that contributed to that large increase that more. So if we want to do that, we really should do it tonight so that so that the department heads get that information and can take it into account while they're doing their budget creations. So, does anyone have any thoughts?
I would ask, so there's that, it's more procedural,
Yep, go ahead.
that large changes to line items come with a comment.
Okay.
So that we have that comment in writing from them when they do their spreadsheet.
Do we need to define what at large is, or do we?
Well, that was my question. Department heads do prefer, but that's up to the budget committee, that percent number, like for the past few years, it's been 3%. Any line that went up over 3%, you were.
I would say changed by 3%. So up or
Yes.
down.
Up or down.
Often I have questions about why lines go down too. So
Good point.
I would say a change by
Okay.
more than 3%.
When I first started just coming to the meetings, it was always 2.5%. And I would sit there with my little calculator, and he was always off. And I was too shy to say anything, and I'm like, where the hell is he getting these numbers from? And I'm calculating, and he realized midway through, they had to go back again, and I thought, I'm glad I wasn't the one that said it. The new person in town, shoot.
I hear
So,
you.
yeah, so 3% is not bad.
I
I mean, I'm talking years.
I was actually thinking that with the current economic, with the high inflation we've had over the past 6 months, was 3%, but I don't think.
But
we're
it's
saying-
fine to say
I-
inflationary adjustment on your comment. I don't think that takes too long.
I was gonna say what you just said, which is, I don't think we're telling them that they cannot exceed
Yeah.
3%, we're just telling them that if they
Correct.
exceed 3%, we want a justification.
I want
think
to
that's fine.
change a change by 3%.
Right,
Is what I want.
if any line changes by 3% or more, we would
Yeah.
like an explanation to why that significant change is occurring.
And I think it's important too that ends up getting printed out, and that's part of what people get when they come to our public hearing. So they see that comment too.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have to ask the question, why is this going up? What are you asking for more? And
Yeah.
we're getting this at the meeting, but the public doesn't see that part of it. I mean, if they're not watching our meeting, so they don't know.
I will double check on that because the format is where it will be done through the system and not by a manual Excel sheet, which will be much better in the future. But you get the reports already, so it's the same formatting as the reports potentially, and then we can export it to an Excel sheet, but we'll just make sure that the comments will also be able to be exported with it,
Yeah.
so.
Awesome.
All right. I think I'm hearing agreement. I don't know that we need to have a formal vote, but if someone wants, we can. But I just would instruct Christina to pass on our request to the budget heads that any line of the budget that changes by 3% or more, have a comment explaining why.
Yeah.
And,
Works for me.
okay,
Mhm.
all right.
This depends on the answer to the next question.
Go ahead.
How are we handling when our construction is possibly ending, and how we're budgeting the fire department and police department because of that? Have we thought about that at all with giving them certain direction or?
I don't think the select board has, but the rate currently, they are set to end in June. So For the fire department, they will have to budget half a year in this building and figure out what half a year in the other building will
Okay. So that's what we're going on, a half year.
be.
Okay.
So they're expecting to occupy the new
Anticipating.
public safety building in June of '24.
Anticipating.
And do they plan on essentially splitting shared costs between those police department and fire department?
There are different
budgets?
sections of the building, but.
Or are we having another section of the budget built for that building? That's what I'm asking. How are we gonna handle that?
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
I think the select board and Bob need to figure that out.
Because there's a shared
Actually,
conference
I've
room.
been told that I have to
Shared.
figure that out.
Yeah, there are shared spaces.
Yeah.
There's separate spaces, but there are common spaces that shared.
Plus, it's on the website now, the building, the safety building, it just went up.
Yeah.
So-
I would say
No, it's good.
I would say it's easier for us if certain things like electricity for that building is
Right.
one line rather than two.
Right, I would
Right.
assume they're not gonna put 2 meters on the building and try to separate
Yeah.
what's gonna use, which department's gonna use what. So we just need to know,
Well,
are they
this
gonna,
building has 5 meters, so.
I'm not,
Yeah.
So, I'll just.
but I think Charlie brings up a good point, is that we wanna, we will need to understand the cost allocation philosophy on that new building in order to be able to construct a good budget for next year.
So the
So,
the estimated date is June 1st, you're saying, or June.
June right now, that's the construction schedule that we've got is the end of June. Well, I say June, I'm gonna say end of June to be safe.
I was gonna say whether you say whatever
And
date you
they-
say, I'm gonna plan on the end of June, because then it also gives you a nice even half in the old and half in the
And
new.
they currently have been meeting their timeline to this
yeah.
point.
They only ran into one delay, which
Okay.
was, which really didn't delay it that much, which was, ledge. They ran into ledge in one of the corners and they had to hammer it.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't really delay. The rain has caused a little bit of issues here and there, but for the most part, they're meeting, so.
So can I just ask a question then? Again, on the new safety building that is it supposed to be, you said divided equally and then, but they share the certain rooms like the conference room and they share whatever, but is the building itself, like for electricity wise, let's say the fire department would be using possibly more electricity than the police department. So how would they divide that up? Just half the building? I mean,
That hasn't been discussed.
That hasn't
Sue,
even been
Sue,
thought of.
Sue, I think we said we need the answer to that question.
yeah.
The question doesn't have an answer yet, so we're letting Carol as the select board rep and Christina as the town administration rep know. We
Yeah.
need those, you can't wait till next June to figure that out, you need to
No.
figure it out in the
Yeah.
next month or so we can take it into account in the budget creation.
Well, they do have to figure it out in the next month because.
Oh, because they have to
their
build it into
their
their version of the
budgets
budget.
are due, right,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Which they've already been through when they moved here,
Right.
so they've already been through.
Well, we squabbled last year over when they were gonna leave the building and when we were gonna back it, so.
But that was a good conversation, Charlie. That
Yeah.
was a legitimate conversation, yeah.
Okay, I don't know that there's anything else on goals or requests for department heads that I know of. Does anyone else have something we need to either ask or share with the department heads or the administration?
I would say it's helpful that when, this is not related to department heads,
Yeah,
but I would almost like some type of written document from the select board when they pass on their budget that really specifies their exact priorities that they had when they went through the budget.
so.
I think that's an important thing. I think for us doing our job, we not only have to, I think, create a budget that the voters want, but also be somewhat in line with the select board, because it's a really bad situation for
Well,
us
right.
at the end of the
The
day
sel-
if we get completely voted against.
Right, well, the
from
select board
Yeah.
sets the policies and the tone of what the town is aiming to do, so we need to know that. I think in the past, between the select board rep on this committee and in the meeting in October, when we get the select board's budget, Sean or someone will come and present that and give us a narrative and answer our questions.
I just want to
I-
make
I-
sure that voice is shared amongst the whole select board that I get.
Okay.
I think that's okay.
I think that makes sense. I think at this point, what we do is we direct that to Carol and either ask him to bring it back to the select board or share it with Les and have her bring it back to the select board as our member.
So you're, to be clear for me.
I'd be looking at like one page that
You'd like a
is
written,
clear about their priorities when they.
So you don't want us to give you the budget on each line and say why did we
No.
make this
No,
decision?
no, no, no.
Like, it would be a one-page memo that says the priorities of the select.
Almost
board
like a cover
were
page to that.
increase
Yeah.
pay, or
Yep.
they were to do better job on health benefits, something like that.
And I think it also helps us explain our case at the end of the day to the taxpayers. I really think it's a whole part of the story that goes with it.
It's gonna be important this year, because I think when the December bills come out, people are gonna realize what actually happened, right, with the tax rate.
right.
Right.
That we're starting to pay on the public safety bonds and that's
Right.
jumped quite a bit.
And as you said, given the nature of the economy, it's unlikely anybody's gonna come in here and say, I've cut my budget 5%. You know, so I think it's all good, it's a good idea, Shelley.
Thank you. No, I think that's a good idea. Okay. All right, and now the last thing on our new business is to talk about information request from, I lump them all together as the nonprofits. I don't know if that's the correct terminology. But the outside agencies, the health agencies or the regional associations. So just to remind everyone, this is basically on the agenda because last year we took we got the requests written in to Wendy and she got them into the budget, get them to the select board, they put them in the budget, and then we had the representatives of the outside nonprofit agencies come in and talk to us, and then we sat around and talked about what did we want to do, and we said, at least I'll even take it on myself. I know I said, I think other people did, but I know I said, gee, I'm not 100% sure that all of this money is justified. If we're looking to make cuts in the budget, this is a place we also should be considering, but I don't feel I have enough information to make significant changes. But I'm basically looking this year, instead of kind of just doing the same thing we did last year, because we've done it the last bunch of years and we're kind of on autopilot. I'm not looking to take everyone to zero personally, but I want to make sure that it really is justified. So what I proposed and what we agreed to is we'd ask the outside agencies to give us more information so we were more clear on what services they're providing and how they're arranged to, I guess two things I was thinking about. How they're arranged for what percentage of their services go to Bristol and what percentage of their funding is coming from Bristol to make sure we're getting an even shake. And making sure that that we're happy that it makes sense to spend that money or give that money away to those people. So, having said that, I want to basically have a discussion. My experience is that throwing the question out and then kind of putting a white piece of paper in front of everyone is not super efficient. So I went ahead and if you go to the last page, I put together what I consider what I consider is, I don't know if you can make that bigger. I'm gonna call this a straw man. There's nothing special about this. This is just my attempt to put something down. I think it's easier to look at a straw man and make changes or criticisms
It's
or.
not, sorry, this is not in your
No.
package because.
Oh, okay.
What the letter
The
is.
letter is.
The letter.
Paul
So
just
the
drew this up.
the first two page, so you have a 2-page letter that it's basically the letter that Wendy sent out. It starts with "To whom it may concern." It's got the town logo letterhead on the top, and it basically says, please send us your request by September 30th. It's a hard deadline. If you don't submit, you will not be considered, and you're expected to show up at the budget committee meeting, and it gives the date in October of 22 when we had the last one. So there's a line in that document that says, supporting documents must include the most current financial statements from the organization. So
Yep.
what we got last year was what they chose to send us. I think we want to put in more detailed questions to tell them the information we really want.
Right.
And this is my draft proposal on the additional questions we would put in there.
So reworking these bullets that I'm seeing.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
just.
So this is basically last year's,
And what it's been like probably for a year.
well, it's not military time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but I looked at it.
Right, so so, to Charlie's point, where it says, down lower, it says, the presentation should answer the following questions. What is your agency and basic background? How much are you requesting? How many people in Bristol does this funding support, and specifically to support people in Bristol?
Where do
This-
you read, where do you read?
At the bottom of the first
Right
page.
here.
This letter,
Oh,
this letter.
oh,
You wanna grab that letter and have that in front of you.
So
This is what was sent out last year.
oh, okay.
This is the 22 letter.
It's in there.
It's
It's in your,
Yeah.
it's in
So
your
the
packet.
letter, sorry, the letter's in there, but Paul's points on the last page are not in there.
What's the letter? Oh, yeah, okay.
Because Paul just wrote it today.
Yeah.
It's in the packet I printed for you too.
Oh, that could be over
You
there.
probably knew that, didn't you?
Okay.
All these
Who's
people-
our VP? Wait a minute.
Well, I brought my own information as well, but yeah. it's-
I'm a non-discriminatory person, you know that.
That's it right there.
So,
Well, you know, there were good questions that they answered. I specifically remember the suicide. How many people from Bristol last
So-
year?
so-
And I had no idea so many people
so,
were from Bristol.
So there's two things I'm thinking about myself, is that I think that there's some more detailed information that I would like to see. And the other thing is, I would like to see that detailed information submitted in writing with their funding request, instead of waiting for them to show up in October and give it to us verbally.
Yeah.
Because if they give it to us in writing in September with their funding request, then we get a chance to look at it and review it, and we show up in October much
Right.
more prepared to ask
Yeah.
interesting questions
Yeah.
that will
Yeah.
illuminate new things we want to consider. So that's kind of where I'm going. So instead of saying your presentation should include the following, I'm basically saying your funding submission should include the following. Now, at the end of my draft, I also went on to say the fact that if we send out this letter at the beginning of September and we're looking for them to respond by the end of September, someone might say, well, we don't normally measure this, so we don't normally do this. So they might say, I don't have the information. So if you go down, what I'm proposing to say is, we want you to submit the answer to these questions with your funding request. If that's not possible, send us what you have now and bring the answers to the other questions when you come to Suzanne. I kind of, in my mind, am thinking this is a transition year. If they say we're busy and 4 weeks isn't enough to do
Yeah.
a big analysis and get you the answer you want, I want to give them a little bit of an escape hatch so they know that we're not gonna say, you get no money if you don't answer. But I also want to, then when they get the same questions next year, they shouldn't be surprised and they won't have an excuse not to have answers.
Right, because we have had that.
Your
in the
thoughts?
past.
We've already had some reach out to us, so they are aware that that the letter is going to be updated, but
The other, and now I'll wait and do that later. I had another question, but it has nothing to do with this, so I'll wait and do that later. So, what I was saying, well, I wanted to start off so this is the series of questions I came up with. So I start off with a basic one. What services does your organization provide to Bristol residents?
oops.
Which is something particularly that when it came to health agencies,
It's
Yes.
healthy.
that was our big predicament of it.
Correct.
Of what,
So
yeah, so that's a great question.
So one of the things, I guess I will say to you, one of the things that I considered and struggled with a little bit is, do we need like one set of questions for health agencies and another set of questions? And I decided, at least at this point, I wanted one set of questions.
Yeah.
I don't really care whether you're Voices Against Violence, or whether you're nursing home, or even whether you're Katie, or CASA. never come to our meetings, and I kinda know what they do, but they've never come and given testimony as far as I know. But anyway, so, an easy one. What services does your organization provide to Bristol residents? And then I wanted to start to think about, does your organization have a service area? If so, please describe it. So assuming they give it to us in advance and they say, we serve Grafton County, well, we can look up what's the population of Grafton County. We know what the population of Bristol is, and we know now what percentage we are of their service. If they give us a list of the towns, we can look up. I will make some time to look up the different towns, and we'll figure that out. Now, what percentage of your services, so just because we're 10% or 5% of their service area doesn't mean we get 5 or 10% of their services. So what percentage of your services are delivered to Bristol residents? And then how do you measure that? Are you looking at the number of appointments, the number of service hours, the value of the services, something else? What metric are you using to answer that for us?
Yeah, each agency is different.
And then I wanted to look into their revenue. So what were your, I think we're halfway through 23, so I'm assuming they can't give us an answer for 23 because it's not a complete fiscal year. So what were your 2022 gross revenues? How much of that was from service fees? So we know like the visiting nurses get insurance reimbursements, so I consider that service fees. And then I didn't want to just ask about government support, so I broke it down into federal government, state government, municipal government, and then I also thought they could get private support. They can get private grants and things like that. I think that covers all the things they would get income or revenue from. Yes, Walter?
Penny Baker is out there, and I think this town is best served by competition. I felt as though we took it out on Penny Baker kind of harsh because we didn't know what they do. But I can assure you that senior citizens and those that need help would be best served by competition.
Okay.
And I intend to support Penny Baker
Okay. Well, that's,
strongly.
thank you. I think, for me, I want the answer to these questions before I decide
Yes.
who I'm supporting. So that's a little different than you, but I'm not saying
But
I'm,
they haven't had much support from us. They've almost felt like we resisted it.
well, I don't know
And I
that.
haven't resisted it.
Okay. So, and then, so that's basically the big four questions I came up with.
Can I recommend that we add one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm interested in the rationale for their requested amount.
Okay,
So how'd they come up with a $2,000 request?
okay.
Because I asked for it last year.
Yeah.
Well,
Really?
yeah, well,
Think
that's-
about all our conversations.
I think that's often a big thing we talk about with them.
Right.
And I rather have that written beforehand.
Okay.
We have a rationale for the requested amount, or what, so often they have a formula they can describe to us how they come up with that amount.
So if you take the first four paragraphs there as questions 1, 2, 3, 4,
I would,
would you insert it as like between 1 and 2, or would you add it to the end of 4? I think it's a basic question, so it could go at the top, or it could kind of go in the bottom.
I think the second question, I think.
So we insert
rather have-
between what services and does your organization to say, what is your justification for requesting this funding?
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of response we're given, but I'm not,
It'll be interesting.
yep, Carol,
So to follow up on that, I had written down,
yep,
we had this conversation last year. They should provide us with what did you serve Bristol exactly last year? So not, I guess I get it, that's what you're asking.
You need
right?
it. I'm asking something separate, but yeah, that's a great question too. The
Right.
first question, what services does the organization provide? That should be specific to last year. In the last year.
so what services did your organization provide to Bristol residents in
In the last-
2022?
Well, because that's,
Or in
they've
the
already.
last 12 months, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I think it should, I think that's a great addition
I'm
to
asking
it.
Carol, though, hold on.
No, I was asking, they might say we have 20 services we can provide for Bristol.
Okay,
Well, last year we were only requested to provide 10 of them.
okay.
How many people, so I think for us as citizens, we have to say, if we zero budget all of this,
Yep.
What do we?
what have we done to us, the people in town?
You ain't kidding.
Right.
So-
And as, to follow up on what, so to know, how many people did you come here and help? Number one, what if we give them 0? What happens to everybody in town? Where do these services go? So I'm saying, Yeah, what services can you provide is different than what did you provide?
So I asked, what services does your organization provide to Bristol residents? Which I would have said was, what did you provide in Bristol?
Okay,
So it
that's-
doesn't give you the whole list, it gives you the list of what they did. So do you
Yeah.
also want to know the whole list?
Probably, I think we've asked,
So
what can you do?
then a follow-up sentence after that in the first paragraph is, what additional services could you potentially provide to Bristol? Is that what you're asking?
I'm not sure anymore.
Can I?
That's okay, then we'll move on to Sue then.
Yeah, well, no, I just want to add something, because if you remember last year, when you were talking about Amy Baker, what her answer was, is that we were able to service this amount of people. It was new. These were all new people that they had seen, but they anticipated this year that they were going to service twice as much. Well, we don't know if they're going to. We don't know what they did do all year, if they did do twice as much as the previous year. So we have to know what exactly they did for this past year, and what do they anticipate next year. So if they anticipate doubling 40 people or whatever it is, so to me, that would be a good word.
And anticipation, yeah.
What is your
Yeah. That's good
anticipation
too.
for it?
So one of the, I think one of the, what I think of when I listen to what you say is, in the third paragraph where I wrote, what percentage of your services are delivered to Bristol residents? You're also asking not just for a percentage, but you want to know how many services did you provide?
Last year, yep.
And you want to know how many services do you intend to provide in the coming year?
Or anticipate to. You're
But
going to, not
instead of saying we delivered 10,000 service units in our catchment area, and 1,000 of them went to people in Bristol, so you got 10%. If they just answered 10%, I'm hearing you say that doesn't give you the information you were looking for. 10% is what I asked for, but you also want to know that they did 1,000 units in Bristol.
Yes,
And you want to know how many they anticipate doing in the following year.
right. So she,
So,
yeah.
I'm okay with that, I
Yeah.
just am saying it out
Yeah.
loud because Christina's taking notes and she's gonna modify this for us.
Yes.
She's always taking good notes, I'm not gonna tell you.
I know one thing,
Yeah.
Nana was good to the people of town of Bristol. And I don't feel as though we've got the same service, and I'm glad we cut things the way we did last year. I'm also glad we didn't take it to zero.
I think,
I
I
tried to
think,
go.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that visiting nurses are gonna be something we're gonna spend time talking about, but I'm anticipating talking about a couple of things, not just visiting nurses, because I wanna get all of these people to answer these questions.
Yeah.
No, that was the biggest thing though, because when he was talking about Nana, is that why were we continuing to give it, when we didn't even know what services they were providing? We were
Yeah.
continuing to give $34,000 or whatever, $36,000, when we said, we don't even know what they're doing, and they
Yeah.
couldn't provide that to us. They had no answer
No.
or whatever, so this is why we went that route. That was the main cause.
I agree
Not
with you.
only
Now, here,
that, they acquired the assets of Nana
Yeah,
without giving us any service for it. I think they were a waste of our money.
well,
so we learned a lesson, so then we, cut that in half, instead of going to zero, we wouldn't do that, I wouldn't have thought that either. But we need more information, and that's why we started.
so I don't really wanna get into a detailed discussion about any one agency in this meeting today. That's something we'll do in the future.
Yeah, it's just an
So,
example.
so I hear what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I just want to pull back and say, let's talk about agencies kind of in general, and not about a specific agency in today's, and right now's discussion.
But there's a lot of older people in this town that need those services. And if we take it from one pocket, we gotta remember what we're doing to a lot of older people
I think-
in this town. And those older people have contributed to this town a long time.
We are going to get into a detailed discussion about all of these requests after we receive the requests.
Good.
So, but at this point, I really want to pull you back and say, let's focus on what additional questions, or what additional information do we want, and what questions do we need to ask to get that information, so we'll feel more comfortable. I don't know, personally, I don't know that I'm looking so much to make a huge cut in the total amount spent. I think I'm more interested in moving it around
Get
to the more
something for
effective
our money.
organizations. and not just keep doing what we're doing because it's what we've done for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That's really kind of where I'm coming from.
Not just do things because that's the way it's been done.
Right.
Right.
I wanted to do it more gradually than it happened, but I fully intended to slap someone's face last year, and I think harder than I meant to.
Okay. So we've got, basically a new line, I'm gonna call it line 1.5, with Charlie's suggestion about, what was your suggestion, Charlie?
It was good though, Charlie.
You asked for something to be added, and then we also talked about changing the third paragraph.
Rationale for requested.
Yeah.
Rationale for request. So we'll have a new paragraph, which will be between 1 and 2, that says, please give us your rationale for why we should fund you. And then the third paragraph will change, so instead of just asking for the percentage and how are you measuring that, to also ask them for what quantity of services did you provide to Bristol residents last year, and what quantity of services do you anticipate providing to Bristol residents next year? And I think because different people have different fiscal years, we should even throw in, what is a year to, what
Yes.
year are you talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because some people will talk about calendar years and other people will talk about fiscal years. And
that's a good one.
I don't want to cause them a huge amount of
Whatever year
additional
they
work.
use.
Whatever year they choose, we'll let them choose.
They'll
But
try
we
to
need to make
include
sure we know
something,
what
they don't know
it
what
is.
they're doing.
Right.
All right. So I had 4, we now have 5, so we've added 1, we've changed the middle one, and then it basically, the next paragraph is what I said before. So it's preferred that you include this information with your funding request. If that is not possible, please provide what you can with your funding request and bring the remainder to the budget committee meeting. And then, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I put this last one in because I kind of think that it helps us to get a better feel for how much support there is in the town. Please let us know if you know of any Bristol residents or taxpayer who would strongly advocate for your funding request. Because we've heard from, you think I'm,
I think
BS
they're all
there?
gonna say they know of someone. But
well,
if
give
you
me their
ask-
name.
You want, because you would wanna say, please provide a name.
Oh, yeah, okay, so yes, I need to
Because
change.
they're all
I really
gonna say,
want a list of a name.
Bristol wants us here.
Yes. You're right, that is poorly worded, because I didn't want them to say, yes, I know someone who loves us. I want to know the name of the person or people that you think would come in and advocate for you. So, yeah, make it more specific, I didn't write that right. But I think that there are some of the agencies would say, yes, so the one I always remember is, I think it's Lakes Region Mental Health. I can remember Chief McIntyre saying,
Yeah.
if we get to a call and we've got someone who has a mental health crisis, we call the folks in Laconia and they come and support us. And if they weren't there, we would have to invest money to have additional capabilities within the Bristol Police Department. So I tend to be more ready to support them because the police chief said that actually in a time when he was here. So if someone comes along and says, I wanna do a dance and tell you why this group has done great things for me and my family, I would hope that they would know about that and they'd be willing to share those names with us.
Or they might say, what is it?
Confidential.
Miffle when you go into a doctor's office.
There's certain agencies that are confidential, and
Yeah.
but not all of them are.
Right, yeah,
Some are, some are.
yeah.
I know
So-
that night I had people here ready to complain, and once I realized how badly it was going, I had all I could do to stop that.
Okay. So,
That's a good
Are you-
point, sorry,
Go ahead.
excuse me, Bob.
no, you go ahead.
That's a good point. When you testify to a committee, to the legislature, anyone can come in and testify on whichever side they wish to. So, is it okay for us to say, well, they're not gonna tell us anything?
Well, if I ask them if they know of
I
any
guess-
person who would strongly argue against their funding, I would
They're not
think they
gonna
would
tell.
say, no, I don't know anyone.
And I guess that
There's nobody who hates
Our
us.
public hearing covers that question.
What's that again?
Anybody can come in a public meeting, the public hearing.
If
and
if
talk
you,
about these,
yeah,
so-
the other thing that I thought about
Yeah.
is if you either in addition or in place of this, the other thing to do is to put out a notice in the Buzz or on the website saying, we're having a meeting on October 10th, so they could come to that meeting. Or we could say to them, we're having a meeting on the next meeting where we're gonna actually discuss and vote on these things.
That's better.
You were
If you'd like to
invited,
speak to an agency.
you as a
yeah.
town
Yeah.
resident and a taxpayer are invited to come to the meeting and share your viewpoints with
I
us.
think that's good.
I think that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
The meeting
So
has-
do you want that in addition or in place of that last one?
Well, this is going to the, I say leave it if it's going to.
So we'll leave that in
I said
with
it's-
Christina's correction to make it specific, but we'll also say now we're intending to publicize our deliberations on this stuff to make sure the town members know that they are able and invited to come here and share their viewpoints.
I think that's good.
So are you talking about deliberations, or do you, because we do publicize everything that you do, one.
It goes,
I think putting it in the Bristol Buzz.
I think it
makes
goes,
stand
it goes
out.
on the
Yeah.
website now. I think putting it in the Buzz gets it a
With
little
the special
more,
Traffic.
traffic. Thank
Oh, I
you.
love the Buzz. I love the Buzz.
But we don't want people here questioning the day they're present, the
Just the
agency
So-
presenting, because
I
that's
think
too
what
complicated.
Christina said is, rather than invite them to the
The second
October,
one.
rather than invite them to the October 10th meeting where all these agencies are coming in to give us their so-and-so, we invite the public to the November 14th meeting, which is when we're talking about regional associations, health agencies, and other outside agencies, and we'll actually vote on those sections of the budget.
And I think we'd want to know anyone's feedback earlier rather than later. Is always better.
A lot of the people that need these services aren't capable of coming here.
Okay.
A lot of them are out there, and we're gonna have to go looking for their opinion, because they are not capable of coming here and doing this.
Walter, I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please do.
Do you think they're able to write something though?
In the past, anything they've written, I've written and put their name on it, and they sign it and mail it.
Because we could read something like that into.
We could invite them that if they can't come to the November meeting, they could submit
Submit a
written comments and we would read them into the record.
Right.
Which is process at the legislature.
I think that's better, yeah. That improves it.
Yeah.
So that gives,
Yeah.
it makes it more likely, it makes it easier, so people who can't get out in the evening or people who can't get out at all can still have an opportunity to contribute. But it doesn't sign us up for like yet another meeting where we're gonna.
Or talk to a budget committee member that you know.
Yeah.
Too. To reach out to one of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Christina, go ahead.
I was just gonna add that you should list out those agency names though, just so,
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
we need,
in your little article, so
from
you
the,
list
from
them all
the
out.
back page of the
Yeah.
letter, it lists the 12, I don't know, I'm probably more than that. 1, 2, 3,
There is
4,
more than
6,
that, but
7,
I
8,
have the other two.
10, 12, 14, 16.
Yeah.
The 16 agencies, okay. And that, so we're gonna leave that last line in, because we don't know what we're gonna get, it'll be interesting to see, but we're really, I think, more enthusiastic about publicizing an opportunity for town residents to share their opinion by either coming to the November meeting or submitting written comments.
Or
ahead
talking
of-
with.
Or talking with a board member, a committee member, who could then represent them at the meeting.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Good.
All right, I think we're mostly done with this. The last question that I have, and this is just a question that occurred to me, and I don't know if anyone knows the answer, because I don't. How is this list of 16, I mean, other than these are the 16 agencies we gave to, well, not counting Day Away, but they're coming back, we gave them in the past. I mean, if there's a new organization in town, how do they get their name on this list? Or if there's an organization that leaves town or we think isn't worth, how do we strike, I guess we could strike them off the list by zeroing them out, but
Hemi Baker wasn't on the list originally.
And
So they just somehow found out about, they know about it from Plymouth and then they came to us.
They'll come to town.
each town does this.
Usually an agency knows to approach a town for funds,
Okay.
usually.
Okay.
But we only send to anybody who's ever asked for money.
That makes sense to me, and I'm not looking to try to recruit more submissions, so let me be clear there. I just wanted to kind of understand. So the answer is if you're at all capable in running a not-for-profit, you know that you should ask the towns in your service area because that's a source of funding.
Yeah.
That's the answer. I hadn't thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense.
It just made me think of one other thing. So when you were saying, was it Casa you said that never has come,
In all the time I've been on
Yeah.
the committee, which is 3 or 4,
and
no more.
do we give them money?
Yeah, not
do
a
we-
lot, not a lot,
But
but
it's not, the point doesn't matter how much, but what I'm saying is that should they all, if they're asking for money, requesting money, should we be giving money to some, they're not, or do they send their information to us, but they never come in and explain why?
I think,
That's very fair.
I think it was fine also,
go ahead.
maybe, to your point,
Yeah.
$500.
we want to make it clear that they can come digitally. Because that worked fine last year. I think the couple people that came to Zoom, they would
Yeah.
answer our questions.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
to make it clear that
So that's a good point. Let's look at the,
they don't
How about
necessarily
I
have to
say-
come here in person.
how about it, go ahead.
I was just gonna add too, I don't think you need to make them wait in the lobby anymore,
Yeah.
because
Right.
that was COVID precautions.
Right.
So you could change that whole sentence as well.
We need to change.
But allow for virtual.
We need to change a couple of things. We need to
Yeah.
change the date, and we need to potentially change the location, because we might be in the
The
historic
seal as
town
well.
hall. But, it's the old seal. But I think you're right, Charlie. I think, assuming you guys are comfortable with this, I'll coordinate with Christina, and we'll add a line in here that, your participation in the meeting on October 10th is strongly encouraged. If you can't be here physically, arrangements can be made to
That was my-
participate
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
what you said.
Because what we want is
Participate
full
electronically.
participation.
Yeah, exactly.
But we want you to participate. You're strongly
Right.
encouraged to participate. I was prepared to,
I think, sorry to interrupt
No, no,
you.
I
I
was-
think you should, if this board, if your committee agrees, you should say to them, point blank, you are strongly encouraged to participate
Yeah.
either in person or via Zoom.
Mhm.
If you don't participate, that could affect your funding.
Absolutely, because why would you blindly give,
I agree. So
Yeah.
if the committee, I think the committee's all shaking their heads,
Yeah.
yes, we'll go
Yeah.
ahead and modify the letter so that it does say that.
Okay.
We're not gonna tell them that if they don't come, they're automatically zero, but we're gonna make
Yeah, but
it
it could
clear to
affect
them
your-
that their chances of getting funded are significantly reduced if they don't participate.
Another thing is,
Right.
I know we group New Hampshire Municipal Association in here,
Yep,
but I view them as really different than all the other dues.
different.
Those are dues that we are going to pay.
I think we moved it though.
No, it's part of,
Didn't we move it on the
Outside
budget?
agencies.
so it is part of,
They just do not fit well with everyone else to me.
You sure we didn't move that on the budget?
It almost seems like
Okay, it doesn't matter.
we should just be funding them.
I have.
Yeah.
Like every town in this state
It's a,
funds
it's
them.
a it's a cost of doing business.
It is.
It's an-
I almost like,
We had
So-
this
They
conversation.
feel
should they be part of the same process?
Yeah.
So Christina, can we give you a action item to please coordinate with Bob and the select board to figure out, do we really want to handle them through this?
So your regional associations are Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Yep.
Which,
And then
we
there's a-
pay the cost of them to hold household hazardous waste day
Yep.
and
Right,
stuff.
and then there's a water
New
river,
Hampshire Municipal Association, and then Pasquaney Garden Club, I'm not sure. And
Okay.
then, Newfound Lake Region Association. So those are the four that are in your region.
I feel like those last two fit.
what's the organization that's like regional water quality? They're somewhere
The
else.
Newfound Lake Region Association.
No, but
No, there's
there's
a Pemo Jurassic River.
a Pembroke River thing.
That's
River
separate.
Advisory Council.
So these are regional associations, these four, so the ones I just said, and then if you go down further, we have 3 different sections.
Maybe it's PRLAC,
Yes, that's.
Penny Regional, I don't,
Then you have health agencies, which is,
oh, they're health agency? So
No.
they were,
sorry, then the next in the budget is health agencies, which is the visiting nurses, both of them. And then you go further down in the budget,
So let me read the.
and there's outside agencies.
Okay.
Which, I don't understand why Pasquaney Garden Club is not an outside agency.
What I see different about the New Hampshire Municipal Association, it is the only one on this list where it is a due. All the others are donations.
Right.
That
So-
we can change the amount.
Correct. So for 15 out of the to Charlie's point, and I agree with him, for 15 out of the 16 agencies listed here, we can negotiate, or we can change, or we can modify.
Yeah.
But for the New Hampshire Municipal Association, we either pay it and are members, or we don't pay it and we're not members.
And you get
There's
that out across all
there's no,
states.
there's no
Right, yeah.
ability to tell them we wanna pay we're willing to pay you a slightly different amount. They tell us how much it is, and we either pay it or we don't.
And, go ahead, Walter, sorry.
If it weren't for the New Hampshire Municipal Association, we wouldn't have clear outline guides as to what we do and whose responsibilities are. I think we get quite a bit from the Municipal Association in our support.
I'm just saying that to the point that I don't know why we question it.
So you think we should take them off the
I don't
list?
think
Just not
they need to
bother?
participate in this process, frankly.
Okay, so I guess what I'm struggling with, I'm not disagreeing with you, what I'm kind of struggling with is, what's the next step, how do we want to handle this? I don't.
I want to see if the select board,
I don't,
does the select board agree?
I was gonna say, I don't think we're gonna resolve that in this meeting. I think that the structural, how the budget is structured is controlled by Bob under the direction of the select board. So we can ask Bob and the select board to look into this and see what they come back. That's what I'm gonna suggest.
But if it
Let me let Walter go and then, go ahead,
If it
Walter.
weren't for their guidelines, we might be lost.
So,
And if you go to all the towns and cities in New Hampshire, a vast majority of them belong to the
All.
municipal association.
as far as I know, all they are, so
Yeah.
Walter,
They all do.
Walter, the reason I'm gonna ask you to stop is that you're arguing that we should fund the New Hampshire Municipal Association. And that's, what we're really talking
That's not the
about is,
question, yeah.
where
Funding.
is lumping them in with all these other not-for-profit agencies the best way to handle the budget? That's what we're talking about, is where does this line belong in the budget? Not whether we should approve this line in the budget. I don't really think there's much
Just pay 'em
push.
anyway.
There's not much push I see from anyone on the committee saying we shouldn't fund it. I think what Charlie's asking, and I'm agreeing with him, it's a good question, is this the right section of the budget to put them into?
I agree with that strongly.
That's good.
But I think all we can do is request for Bob and the select board to look into it, and I think they're gonna agree, but then they have to figure out what the better solution is.
Yeah, agreed.
And so I just wanted, for a point of clarification, this letter, you're comfortable with taking NHMA off this letter though, and we will determine where they should be in the
I
budget.
think that makes sense. We would take the list down from 16 to 15.
She's a
because-
very nice woman. She does a great job. I just really don't feel like I need to hear from her.
If you ask any questions, it's because that's your population.
Yeah, yeah.
Because,
Because that's our funding
Yeah.
formula. All right.
Now we have 15 that night, not
Wait,
16.
15 seconds. Okay.
Wait another hour, we'll have 14.
All right, are there any other, so I think we have the changes to the form letter. We've agreed it's gonna go to 15 instead of 16. There's still some action items for some other things, but I think we're done with this agenda item, which is information request for nonprofits. I'm pausing for a second to see if someone disagrees, and I'm not hearing anything. So now we will move on through the agenda. Meeting minutes. We have to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which actually were back on February 8th, 2003. That was the public session where we presented the budget to the public before it went to the town meeting in March.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 8th, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Charlie to approve, and Janet has seconded.
I would like to amend the minutes.
Are there Thank you, that was my next question. Are there any requests for changes?
Can I get my name added to present?
No.
Oh, I missed that. You weren't listed in there?
I missed that too, when I edited them.
Okay, so.
Oh, what an ulterior motive he
We
has.
will modify the attendance to add Charlie, because he was
I
definitely
wasn't
in the
even
meeting.
listed, I wasn't even absent.
You sat next to me and passed me a note during the meeting, I know you were
Yeah.
there. He actually passed me a note about the thing you complained about earlier. Okay, any other changes or modifications? Okay, so we will now vote to approve the minutes as amended for the meeting on February 8th, 2023. All in favor? Aye. I heard five, I heard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ayes, so it passes 6-0.
No, I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
I missed that. Actually, Walter.
Actually, you don't.
Actually, Walter, you're not required to abstain. If you read the minutes and you think they're correct, you are allowed to vote
But you
for them.
can't abstain.
But you don't have to. Do you want to vote for or abstain?
I'll vote for it.
Good. They pass either way, so
Okay.
that worked out on it.
I didn't realize that, so.
I've heard it before, because when I first joined, I was like, well, I wasn't at the meeting, I can't vote, and I was corrected. No, if you think the minutes are correct and you're comfortable voting yes, you are allowed to. You don't have to be at the meeting.
Yeah, another similar thing that we've debated in the past, it's conflict of interest. It's only the person
yeah.
that's voting
Yeah.
can deem themselves whether they have a conflict of interest.
Right.
You cannot call on
Right.
another board member saying they have a conflict of interest and they cannot vote. It's a person that deems that they have a conflict of interest.
I guess I would say that if we were gonna hold maybe I'm wrong, so I'm saying this to see if you're gonna correct me. I think that if we were gonna hold a vote, and I thought somebody had an obvious conflict of interest, and it looked like they were gonna vote, I would ask them, are you sure you're comfortable? I think there's a conflict here. But to Charlie's point, the decision on whether or not to recuse is up to the person voting. If you say, no, there's no conflict here, I'm gonna vote, as chair, I can't force you not to vote.
Yep.
And as a member, you can't force someone else not to vote. But I think we are allowed to raise the question,
Yeah.
sure you are comfortable voting. Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
But you can't as a chair say you can't.
I cannot disqualify anyone from voting, even if
Yeah.
I think that they shouldn't be voting.
Correct.
It's up to each of us to be responsible for their own
Yeah,
morality.
I'm pretty sure that's the way
Yep.
it says.
That's what the RSA says, it
Yep.
definitely does. Correspondence, I don't think,
I do have some.
Good.
I was gonna say, I don't think I have
Must be
anybody,
important.
Christina does, so she told me she did actually.
Yeah, I didn't, so I just want, what I've done with the select board when they get thank yous for the budget, I've been bringing them, also putting them into your folder to save because they are for both of you. So Katie,
Yep.
did say on behalf of Katie and their board of directors, they thank you for the municipal allocation of $2,000. Their community education initiatives and positive youth development program are purposeful, meaningful, and significant, as is our commitment to youth. Your allocation will transfer problems into solutions by preventing addiction and create a legacy of promise for our most vulnerable children and youth. Thank you to the Select Board and Budget Committee for your leadership and the citizens of Bristol for understanding that it takes community action to prevent substance abuse addiction.
Thank you.
You also got from Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, dear member of the Budget Committee and Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the participants, volunteers, and staff of Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, I would like to thank you for again approving our funding request. Your continued support assists us in providing services to the older residents of Bristol. So, almost done, sorry.
Okay.
The next one was from Newfound Lakes Region Association. Thank you for your generous contribution of $2,000 to Newfound Lake Region Association. Your gift will support invasive aquatic species prevention, stormwater management projects, watershed scale planning, and educational programming, ultimately protecting the well-being of the lake, land, and people of Bristol and the Newfound watershed. The NLRA is available year-round as a resource for the town and the community. Please stay in touch with your questions and concerns. I look forward to continuing our partnership and working together for the benefit of all. She actually hand wrote, "I'm grateful for our partnership" on the side. So.
Okay.
And this one is just an update so the Budget Committee knows. When we did the warrant article for the radiant flooring, it was supposed to be $107,000 that came out of the general fund. With the warrant article, we also said that we would apply for funding, and try to offset that. We applied for Grafton County ARPA funding that became available, and we received $40,000 towards that. So we will adjust the amount coming out of the, general fund on that warrant article with this to offset it, so. And I don't have any other communications, we're good.
Okay, I assume none of the other committee members received any communication?
No,
No, I didn't
I'm
think
so sad.
Comments? We'll start with select board. Carol, do you have anything?
So is this last year's session of the legislature, House Bill 123 was introduced, whose intent was to remove the vote from the governing body representative on budget committees.
Okay,
I think I might have told you about
I
this.
think you did mention it last year.
It did not pass, but in the way it works, it doesn't mean it's over.
Okay, sure, no.
It didn't pass, but it's on the table now, so it
Yeah,
could be pulled
Could
off the
always
table.
come back.
I still intend to vote against that, saying I think this seat should have a vote, because I had that conversation here. So I'm just asking again, if you're still in agreement, you think that the governing body, the select board seat should have a vote on this committee? And probably made,
So, so one of the things that I will, so I'll give you my opinion, because I think you're asking for opinions.
Yeah.
I agree with you. If I were a member of the legislature, I would vote against this. I would also just say to you personally, there were a couple of times last year where you seemed conflicted. You're like, well, as a select board member, I voted on the select board budget for this, and now the budget committee is considering changing it, and I think I need to be consistent, so I can't really vote to change it. The best I can do is to abstain. And I just want to continue to reinforce my opinion, that as a member of this committee, we're gathering more information.
Right.
When you sit here, even though you're on the select board, when you sit here on this committee, you've been exposed to more information, you are allowed to change your mind.
Yeah.
I would hope you or Les or whoever's sitting in that seat is comfortable voting for what you think is best at that time and are not constrained by your earlier votes as a select board member.
yeah, I brought that up at the select board, and we had that basic conversation.
Okay, good.
The other bill that was brought up that was fairly roundly defeated was to allow people to vote and to be counted as a quorum via Zoom, and that was,
Oh, so they were gonna make Zoom a permanent allowed thing, and that went down in flames, you say?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I didn't look it up real quick, I can't remember if that was tabled or not, but
It wasn't moved forward.
it was not moved forward. So yes, if a bill, this is interesting, if a bill comes to the floor of the legislature saying, the committee says vote yes, we think this should pass, and everybody says we don't agree with that, it's not over. Then you can table it, or you can do all kinds of things to it. The only time it ever ends is if it says inexpedience or legislate, and everybody agrees, it's done. So it's possible these things can come back from the dead, so to speak,
Okay.
very easily. But at this point, I also voted against that.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you. We were
Thank you for
looking
your
for,
service.
we were looking
Yeah,
for,
thank you.
we were expecting select board comments, but we got
Yeah.
state legislature comments, which we are thankful for. Thank you.
and I don't think, as I missed the last two select board meetings being on vacation, I don't have any, do you have anything to select board talking about budget yet?
No, they were waiting for the budget schedule.
Perfect, so we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other, Sue, do you have any comments that you
No.
want to bring up?
No.
Walter? Janet?
You know I do.
I know you do.
I'll bring the elephant in the room, okay?
Go ahead.
I got two things. Are the selectmen doing anything about moving the voting from the old town hall? There's so many complaints from elderly people.
Okay, so I will.
I
I'll
actually,
reiterate-
I actually wanna point out that that really has nothing to do with the budget committee. But-
I know.
So when I asked for comments, I was kind of asking for budget committee
You
comments.
know?
So
We can talk after.
if you could either give us a quick answer,
Yeah.
or you could just talk to
Just
Janet
say
when
yes or
meeting's
no.
over.
Well, the quick answer is the select board doesn't control that.
Doesn't what?
We don't control, we have no control of that. It's
It's Ned's control,
Moderator.
the
moderator's
moderator
control.
and the tax collector.
However, we did meet with the interim school superintendent, last week. And we did put a bug in his ear about it, so I think that we will continue to have that conversation to try and convince Ned to move it.
It's hard for the older folks, and I gotta tell you,
Well,
9 back surgeries. I always do my absentee ballot now.
we had golf carts all lined up to move people by golf cart, and then it snowed,
Not in those golf carts.
so,
That was,
It's such a
But then you
historic
fix-
building.
I know.
Yeah.
I wanna see it used.
I agree. I think
Okay.
that that's part of, yeah.
Right.
so then the
So-
other
So Janet, you're the
thing for
second
the
one?
selectmen is quick, is I appreciate seeing on Facebook, you're celebrating people who have been there 15 years, whatever. You have a lot of volunteers here that help run the town and volunteer their time, and you do nothing for them.
We didn't.
No.
Because I don't have all of their start dates, but I can get them.
That's all I got. I don't have to be here for the conversation. That's all I'm saying is, a lot of people give a lot of their time.
Fair, very fair.
Okay,
Thank
done.
you, Janet. Charlie?
I don't know, man.
I had something, but it's escaped from my head, so I think I'm done.
There you go, meetings.
All right, staff comments. Christina, anything?
No, thank you.
All right.
I think I covered myself.
All right, so the next thing on our agenda is to adjourn this meeting and go into non-public session to discuss and vote on appointment to the open position. So, I need to ask.
We just entered a public section, we
We're
don't.
not adjourning.
Okay, so I said it wrong. Thank you for correcting me, but I will ask.
Bye now, but nice meeting you.
Do you want me to
Thank you.
pause the stream and come back when you guys?
Why don't you pause, because we'll come
It
back.
won't
and-
take you that long.
No, it's
No, I
not.
won't take
And
So,
quickly though, you do, when you do this motion, you need to do it in public before he pauses.
Oh, so,
Okay.
that's what I said.
Okay.
And you need to do roll call vote for
okay,
non-public.
so I'm making a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters having to, do you want me to read the
You have to say
RSA?
the RSA, sorry.
Okay, I'm making a motion to go into public session
No.
pursuant to RSA 91-A:13, 2, paren C. In order, do you want me to read matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person in order to have a personnel discussion?
Second that.
I need to do a roll call vote. I'll start with myself. Aye. Charlie?
Aye.
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 You're around, Mike.
Okay, so 6-0. So now please turn off the Okay, so we're out of non-public and back into public. Do I need to wait for you or you all set?
You get
Okay, so now that we're back into public session, we will now take a motion. I'll make a motion to appoint Daniel
Key.
Buzz Kenny
Yeah.
to the open position on the budget committee to serve until the next election. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Walter will second it. Do I need to do a roll call again, Christine, or can we just do a, all in favor?
Aye.
I got 6 ayes and we have 6 people, so it passes unanimously, 6-0. Excellent.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second that. All in favor? So our next meeting is not till Tuesday, October.
No, October 20th.
Tuesday, October 10th.
I thought it was,
No, the end of September meeting with the department heads is not gonna happen.
right,
The meeting on October 10th is the meeting with all the nonprofits where they
Yeah.
basically give us testimony.
it's my father's birthday, of course I'd be there.
So I